What's like the most that you did on before?
Gene, how are you? Gene, how are you?
Good.
Gene? Good.
Where do you sit from?
Dog stage.
The least. Oh, somebody sits here. I saw her when I was having my breakdown in the parking lot. Not a breakdown, I'm just frustrated.
By the lack of parking.
It's like three of us circling for 10 minutes. And more people, and I'm like. It was hot for these three people, and we let three more people. So I saw her car.
You gotta get a sister who has downtown parking here.
That's right.
Except for that, yep.
I have a doctor's appointment at 3. Outer Cape said I could have one today or in 4 months, so
Oh.
I guess. So I'll be leaving at like 2:50.
Oh, no, no. I know you. Come here. You're a good dog. Relax them. You're a good girl. I know, there's a lot going on. I know.
We don't have printed agendas, right? There's no point in printing them.
I did not bring any.
It's for your guests.
Would you like one?
Here's the agenda right here.
Last time I printed this, well, last time. I feel very bad about it.
That's all right. I got one to look at here and I'm sure he'll share with my friend over here.
Certainly. All right now. Hey, Maria.
Hi.
So,
Freaking party.
I know, a lot of folks here. Come on, everybody.
Saw her in the parking lot.
Yeah.
But I didn't, we were madly circling looking for spots.
Yeah.
And that was a while, that was an hour. ago.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, DJ.
Anybody want their candy?
Pleasure to
I brought
see
some
you.
candy. Welcome.
How did your boat make out or your household make out?
Great.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
I felt so sorry for the guy that
Like,
on that big old yacht
I know.
that painted his sunny turquoise.
No.
I saw it going up the harbor.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just gone in. She just,
Yeah.
all
All our
that,
stuff.
yeah,
Been that long.
yeah,
No, like a week.
that was a shame. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was lucky.
Yeah,
Very,
and
very
she
lucky.
didn't even want to put it in North Side, was like, we gotta get it out.
Yeah.
These are delicious. Have more.
yeah.
Yes.
Hello everyone. Today is the Provincetown Harbor Committee meeting of Monday, June 2nd, 2025, 2 p.m. in Caucus Room, Town Hall. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Act of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with the law. To join the meeting, please click the Microsoft Teams link and posted in the agenda, or to join by phone. Dial 857-327-9004. Phone conference ID 829-080181. Please note that while an option for remote participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will continue if technological problems interrupt virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. I'm maybe taken out of order at the discretion of the chair. Present for today's meeting are Marty Racine,
Here.
Lori Morelli,
Yes.
Here.
Nate Pearls,
Here.
and Michaela Murphy here. All right, so first up, we have public comment. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak on anything that is not on the agenda?
So as I look at the agenda, Madam Chair, I notice that you have public comments followed by the presentation. So during the presentation, there will be a public comment. Please. Thank you.
All right, so first up, we have the e-foil of Cape Cod presentation with Joseph Borshaw.
Hello, hi, I'm Joseph Forshaw. And this is Finlay Tyler.
Hi, good.
So I'll be managing the Provincetown location. Finn is the owner and operator for the past 4 years in Katuitt. In the last 4 years in Katuitt, he's had no issues, no injuries, no complaints to the harbor master. Basically, we just want to let the rest of the people using the harbor know that we're open to communication, ensuring maximum safety and following the rules of the road per se. I guess, let's see. First, we'd like to say that safety and the respect of the many people and businesses already enjoying and working in the bay is of paramount importance. We understand concerns about congestion and mutual respect for sharing our beautiful waters, but rest assured we are diligent, open-minded, and willing to address all honest and valid concerns, not only in these initial phases, but as respectful neighbors throughout the season. If there are any issues, I'm more than willing to talk about them. If you want to talk about the boards themselves a little bit.
Yeah. So before we get into kind of all that we have and resources we have,
Just for the minutes, at 2:03, Mike Shoot is also public.
Excellent.
yeah, before we talk all about kind of how we want to operate in Provincetown and whatnot, I kind of wanted to open it up to first have everyone, understand what we're doing. Our business is e-foil Cape Cod, and we give lessons on these boards called e-foils, which stands for an electric hydrofoil. And before we kind of talk about how we're going to operate in the water, does anyone have questions just about how e-foils work? Or?
Not how they work, but I'd like to see a photograph of where you operate out of Katuitt. So I know what the surrounding area looks like.
Can we pull up a picture of Katuitt Bay?
I'd like a little bit more detail.
Absolutely.
I'm familiar with Katuitt, but I'd like a little bit more detail of exactly where in Katuitt you operate. Where is the exact location of your business?
Yes. So
That does,
It's on Ropes Beach, correct?
So we launch our boards from Ropes Beach because it's easy to just get into the water from there. And that's where we meet our clients. And then we take the boards out. Can we zoom out a little bit here?
Yeah.
So we start at Ropes Beach and we launch the boards from there. And then we go straight out of the mooring field and we go up the channel here. We can zoom out a little bit more. And we end up in this area in North Bay. And that's a protected area where it's also kind of known as a water skiing zone in Katuitt Bay. And that's kind of out of boat traffic. And so we take our riders there.
so is that a prescribed area that's in the harbor regulations for Katuitt?
It's a prescribed area for it's known for being a wake zone and a water skiing friendly place for recreation.
Okay, so is that in their harbor regulations that that's where you have to operate?
That's where they like us operating, but it's not in regulations.
Not in the regulations of Katuitt Harbor?
Not that I understand.
We'd also like to say, as far as the crafts themselves, they are silent. They're electrically operated. They do not pollute. They're about 50 pounds, so they pose very little risk to other craft or other people themselves. In addition, the entire thing would be supervised. So we understand the need to keep our riders away from paddleboarders or people like the students on the sailboats, and basically stay out of the way of everybody else. We'll be there to guide our people away from that. And in addition, we are going to be creating a safety video showing people the proper etiquette in case there's a boat coming towards you or something like that, what to do. Because like anybody else renting a boat or a student, you know, everybody has that chance to learn. The nice thing about these boards is they're speed regulated. So we're not going to be zipping around. It's not like a jet ski at all. You're not jumping wakes or anything like that. We can regulate them to 15 miles an hour. So, you know, as far as the ability to stay out of people's way, we can also stop them instantaneously. As soon as you let go of the trigger, you stop. As far as, you know, like putting anybody else at risk, it's super.
They're just personal watercraft. They're just like personal watercraft.
Yeah, they have a couple of horsepower and we can regulate the speed to 15 miles an hour. So
And
it's
slower even at like 2
yeah,
miles an hour if we really want, but that's not.
Yeah.
But we have total control over that.
yes.
What's your experience in this area with marine life? What are you encountering? Yeah,
Because are you talking about like sharks? Is that what you're?
I know,
talking about, just
whales.
in general, whales.
Yeah.
Like
I think your impact on marine life, not
Our impact, I
marine,
understand.
not the other way around.
yeah.
Nothing immediately jumps out at me because in this bay, especially low tide, is like super shallow waters.
Mhm.
And it's protected by Dead Neck or Sampson's Island, if you know that area there. And so occasionally we've seen like one seal pop up in that North Bay area, but there have been no encounters. Like I never hear the motor like blending up minnows or anything like that. That's never been a concern.
The propeller is about 3 inches around and it has a protective shroud around it.
I have a picture of it as
So-
well to make.
So they're,
So it's not, the older models have actual propeller, but this is like a shrouded propeller. So a lot of people, when they first got on the e-foils or they've seen videos, they're like, oh, that seems kind of scary because there's a propeller under me. But the newer models in which all of our boards have, it's the shroud around the propeller. So nothing jumps out with.
they go down about 2.5 feet from the board until you get up on foil and then the motor is up towards the surface. It's about 2.5 feet. Yeah.
On the board, full depth. So it's sitting on the board before they take off, we're looking at like 30 inches.
It's 28 inches, exactly.
Yeah.
And eelgrass, yeah, any problems with eelgrass beds? And
We would be out beyond that. We would have people turning the boards upside down, walking out until they get to about waist deep.
Yeah.
Before they turn it around. And then just laying on the board and puttering out at low speed until we get to the recreational area after the breakwater and the tip of where the inn is, the Provincetown Inn, you know, the recreational area.
So it's the same regulation as personal work.
Yep.
We're on the same time.
Yeah, it would be this, it would be the same regulations.
Here.
Well, last year, we've educated ourselves so much about what the rules are. You know, last year, the harbor master who's no longer here was allowed that during that time. I guess because of the relatively new technology, he didn't see any regulations one way or the other, but we're trying to go above and beyond as far as safety goes, treat it as if it is a PWC, even though they are silent and quiet and not very powerful.
but the Coast Guard recognizes them as boats.
Yes,
Vessel,
so
but not personal. So there's a,
Yeah, they don't have a title.
there's.
Yes, they do. They're considered personal watercraft.
That's
And I'm sure you're aware, since you're investing in this business, that as of April 1st, 2026, whomever you allow to operate those is going to have a boating license.
license. And
yeah, I've printed out the regulations about that. As of April 1st, that's when the law goes into effect and they'll start enforcing it at the end of next season.
But I watched you guys operate out of the Weston Boat Ramp Beach last year. And some of my concerns about where you may or may not intend to operate have to do with the fact that make sure we had some bathing beaches accessible for the people in this town. They want to be able to lay a towel out, to sit down, to dry off. One of the individuals who used that area daily had her husband drive her up to the parking lot. She would get out, go for a swim, sit on a towel. He was a former boat builder in town. He would watch the water. It was always very interesting to him. When she was dried off enough, she got back up and got into her car. But the impact of the number of voting people who wanted to use that beach and the trams, their small sailboats, their Zodiacs, inhibited anyone from really having German. And we mapped out an area where people are allowed to put their boats up against the seawall there. Limited area from here to here, the same at the Johnson Street parking lot. So that people would be able to access some public beach in the town of Provincetown. Our tides are much higher. When I started working where I work right now, Michaela can probably verify it, we had a beach so that people could come down, put out a towel, place for children to play. Now that water comes up to my bulkhead. As a result, my building and my bulkhead have to go up in the air. There are no more public beaches, and I don't want you to tell me about the National Seashore, because although it is public, it's pay to park, it's pay to use. People are entitled to have some free space to go to the beach. You also talk about those hydrofoils being regulated at 15 miles per hour. I don't know where you're going to operate out of, but most of the harbor is in no wake zone from the boat ramp down east end part of our breakwater that goes across the harbor, not the one that goes out to Wood End. That's one. His son works with me. I watch him zip back and forth. Day that he goes by there. I appreciate the fact of business into it because you need to go thread out for all those boats. I've watched fireworks at Katuitt Bay. I had a friend who had a Bertram there and also a sailboat. So I understand that you're proceeding carefully out to that area, which is great. And to proceed out from that give a swim for life. All summer long, you have people swimming east and west across this harbor in preparation for that Swim for Life, which is a fundraiser for this community, a badly needed fundraiser.
Know where you guys plan on launching from.
They're launching from they're planning to launch from the West End boat launch.
Okay, so you're gonna keep doing that.
Which is a public, which you know.
Yeah.
And it's in your regulations, your check. I wonder if you've all looked at to see what can and cannot happen off that beach.
So I, in preparation for this, have done quite a bit of research because, you know, as everyone knows, and especially you, Ms. Abler, having been on this board, we're an advisory board. We don't have the right to tell you that you can or cannot operate. We don't have the right to we can make recommendations to the select board. I spoke to the licensing agent because a lot of the concerns that have come up are, you know, essentially about the business's right to operate or what we can enforce. So similar to bike rentals, the town does not license this business. So that the town has very little authority in what they can say that they can do unless they're selling these e-foils at the end of the season. Now, because they were not able to do that with bike rentals and with the e-bikes and all of that, it was brought to the select board, and the select board then later implemented a bylaw which allowed them to create guidance for what e-bikes and scooters were allowed to do. Because this is new technology and a new business, that is not something that we have in existence right now. If that is something that people that would be something that could be directed to the select board to ask for a bylaw, but it does not exist at this time. When I spoke, Finn, that I spoke to you,
Well, I think it was me, you and I spoke on the phone.
we had spoken last winter. And, I expressed the same thing that I had concerns. I grew up sailing at the Western Racing Club. I swim, my mom lives close to Elise and close to the Western Racing Club. So I do share concerns. On the other hand, I also understand that people are worried about things that they don't know how they're gonna work, and that you guys are trying to operate a business. My recommendations at the time were, so the Commonwealth Tidelands are owned by the state. They're in theory managed by the town, but we have no authority by the DEP to enforce any Chapter 91 regulations. The DEP does not have, in theory, an issue with what the business that you're operating is unless it becomes sort of liability. I recommended that the town was going to license this, because at the time I didn't know about the licensing, that you add the town as an additionally insured party because you are using the West End Boat Launch, that you have all of the guests or clients sign an indemnification agreement, which I think that you've added to your thing.
Yeah.
So I, obviously do have concerns about, and which I spoke to the harbor master about today, because these are personal watercrafts, and because, so for example, I have a restaurant. So if we're in violation of any of our, if we serve alcohol after a certain time, if we overserve people, if somebody drinks and gets in their car and kills somebody, we have liability, and there's mediation that comes after that. So we would get a violation, and after a certain number of violations, we would lose our license. Because you don't have that, it puts us in a weird position that, say you have somebody who rents your e-foil, and, there's a grievous incident, or a child, or they hit a swimmer, or blah, blah, blah. That person can be ticketed, but there's not really a ramification for the business itself. And the harbor master's office, has to deal with the entirety of the harbor and all of the users of the harbor. And it's a lot to ask them to be patrolling a specific business. And we had also talked about, helmets, and that you would have somebody in the water at all time, whether it's a boat or somebody on a hydrofoil, which I think that you guys had said that. I mean, obviously I understand that you also don't want to get sued. You also don't want to be liable or anything. So you're going to do your best to be safe. I feel like our hands are a little bit tied, in the sense that we're an advisory board. We don't have.
Well, there's just conflicts within our
What you do, Michaela, because you make regulations.
There's gray
for this harbor.
areas
For example,
between.
you remember when out of the boatyard, Christine Maxwell, Mad Maxine, had no watercraft. She had jet skis. Those were guided out of the harbor on a roof to behind the point. Not good for you behind the point. And there's something else that you guys need to understand. I don't know how much you know harbor. I don't know how long you've spent on the water, and it doesn't really cut what this harbor is and what all its uses are. And I'm not just talking about above the water, I'm talking below the water as well. You have up in the cove, you have a huge grant area for shellfish
I understand.
and a steel protected
It's
area.
actually
I'm not finished yet. Just be very bossy.
Well, that's Ms. Avlar, let's be genial.
So those are considerations that the land under the water is, what's growing there, what's feeding there. Because we have a hatchery area too for a lot of our striped bass and bluefish that go out of here. And that whole cove area, when you go out, it's going to look very, very inviting to a lot of people. So, like Mad Maxine's, I would
And that is our intention as if you,
Because as you know, and I know,
Well, that's not what Larry.
it doesn't matter if you're 16 or 86. Once you go like that, you can hardly wait to put the pedal to the metal, so to speak.
yeah,
They're happy things, they're fun things. Or
So can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I think one issue that, so the members of the public who have come to speak are users and residents of the West End, which is our most, and we have the aquaculture grants there. And I understand, so that beach with parking is, probably great for you guys because it provides accessibility, but have you considered launching from the boat from the town landing at the Johnson Street parking lot? Because then you could go off into the east part of the harbor, which is much less trafficked.
we'd be more than happy to operate in that area. Last year, the harbor master told us the only area he wanted us to operate in was this area on the west end. And he told us to pick a spot and only one spot. That way we can figure that out. So that's what we move forward based on the advice we were given.
He was only here for about 15 minutes and he didn't know his
Yeah.
It will,
elbow from anything else. Right,
granted, but for us,
yeah, no, and I understand. Yeah.
that's what he told us to do. So that's what we've done our research on. We have looked at the topographical maps. That was made on the Hindu. I also worked on the Kimberly Ann, and I've been a boat owner with boats in the harbor, so I am quite familiar. We would absolutely want to bring people past that area and operate in the safe area. My husband's a clam ambassador in town, so we were very familiar.
you
with
would
that.
be with your,
And we would be absolutely.
so let me ask you, how are you gonna set up in the way?
If it's easier to go to the east end to avoid all of this, we're happy to do that, as long as we can operate.
I thought you ought to go down and see the Harbor Hotel. You got a ready-made.
Do want to say that we're allowing public comment, but it's not a running public comment. So if there are questions, and I don't want it to get into this. So I think that a pretty good resolution would be to potentially operate out of the East End. You don't have to deal with anything over there. You don't have to deal with the racing club. You don't have to deal with the aquaculture grants. You have the parking lot.
The mooring field,
The,
everything.
yeah, I mean, there is a mooring field, but it's
Yeah.
there's open water there most of the time, and it's the same tidal flats. There, yes, like Ms. Hopler said, there is the Harbor Hotel, that is a private entity. Anything east of Howland Street is no longer Commonwealth Highlands, until seaward of the mean low water mark. So that is private beach, so if you had permission from the Harbor Hotel, but Johnson Street does not fall within that. So you could operate outside of the Johnson Street parking lot.
Hey, can you bring that up so we know? I'm sorry, just so we know.
Yeah, so
Coyote Kayak goes out of there and
Oh.
they
Yeah.
just go right and they.
there's kayak
Yeah,
racks
it goes
there,
right
the
to the end
beach
of the
there is
pond.
much larger. It is very close to the pier, so you basically want to be bringing people due east as soon as you get out there. But then as soon as you're eastward of that breakwater, you're out of the wake zone anyways. So it's a much shorter, and because you're not dealing with the crazy tides there, like at low tide, if you're operating, you have to go out quite far with those boards.
Yeah.
You don't have that issue in the East End. So I think that this could be a
Yeah.
much better
This sounds wonderful.
situation for everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
if I could comment too, I was the rental manager at Flyers for 5 years, and the least favorite part of my job was the kayaks and the paddle boards, because they're going through a commercial channel to get anywhere and a crazy mooring field. So I mean, if this is possible for you,
And you also
Seems
have,
like
I
a
mean,
no-brainer.
the seal population in the West End is so inundated right now, and then you have to deal with the Mammal Protection Act and the 150
Yeah.
feet from a seal and all of that kind of thing. So I think operating to the east is going to just save you a ton of headaches. And again, this is something that we can't enforce at this point because we don't have a regulation yet. And we don't have, and so I think that while this season gets going, I think you'll save yourself a ton of headache and a ton of public outcry. If you're just going in the East End, I think you'll have much less traffic. I think it's a good solution to see how it goes. Let's get through the season. If there are complaints, we'll deal with them as they go. And you're learning and we're learning, but I think that if you guys are amenable to that, let's just. do it that way.
100%. The only reason we chose the West End is because we thought we had to.
No, I totally get that.
That's the only
Yeah.
reason.
And people will see you, people will be at cafes.
Yeah.
They don't need you don't need a trailer for this, do you?
We just walk them in.
Yeah.
I
So,
understand you walk them into the water, but how do you get them to the spot to walk them into the
Right.
water? Like, are
yeah,
you delivering them with a truck, a trailer?
you're not bringing them into the water.
There's,
No, so you have to get to the water somehow.
we just
You
carry
don't
them.
carry them over your
Your
shoulder.
car, that's what.
We just
So you would park in the Johnson Street lot?
pick up truck,
Yeah.
park in the parking lot and just walk them over.
Oh,
Yeah.
What about all the times there's no parking?
right.
But there's plenty of times
That's
there's
a
no
reason
parking.
they-
at the
yeah,
West
big
End.
building.
No,
I know, but that's in terms of,
Are we attempting to manage a business that's outside of the harbor purview right?
yeah, that's.
So
I think the problem.
Again,
and the
so-
issue is their access to the harbor. And we've determined that Johnson Street is a beach accessible to them if they're going to run this business. Do we
Yeah.
really have to go back to now parking?
No,
Like-
we absolutely do not. And again, as I said from the beginning, as any of the regulations are currently, we do not have purview over this business. We can certainly, which we have made recommendations, we have made them in the past. It is our purview to make sure that everyone is safe. And we have a harbor master who has good lines of communication with you guys and has committed to making sure that this is going to be policed in some way, whether it's, monitoring speed in the same way that he would with any other craft. But we cannot say, yes, you can operate here, we can make a recommendation. And so my recommendation, and I don't want to speak, we can certainly, it's not even something that
I don't
we
think
really can vote on. But my recommendation is that you operate in the east, head east. It's a much less trafficked area. You no longer have any issues with sailors from the Western Racing Club. There's very few swimmers, certainly not the amount of traffic that you're gonna have in the West End. You don't have the aquaculture grants. There are some aquaculture grants past the Harbor Hotel, in which you can get a list from Steve Wisbauer, and just to be, cognizant of that. But
And what about conservation?
they've spoken to Melissa Millette, again, that's
Good.
not, it's
Good.
nothing
I
to do
just
with that.
You needed.
But as long as you are not seaward or not east of Howland Street and accessing any of those public landings, you're allowed to use.
That's like landing.
And can you show me where Howland Street is, please?
It's East End Market.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that, yeah. But and again, this is a suggestion. We can't tell you how to operate your business.
That sounds
But
that's great.
worry.
I mean, if it's gonna make everybody happier.
Hotel is very amenable to working with other businesses. The Erica, who has Coast Bikes, operates her bike and shuttle out of there. I think because they're such a far East End business, they're always looking for ways to get more involved in the community. So that might be something that they would give you a parking spot in their place and you could launch it from there. Now you are dealing with much bigger tides there, so that's an issue. Johnson Street to me is, you're always working with a pretty good tide. But if you had parking issues, and again, I don't know why we're spending so much time talking about something that we don't have a lot of say over, but then that's something that you could on your own speak to Harbor Hotel and see if that.
May I say one more thing? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds fantastic. And we're more than happy to do that if it's gonna keep things easier, because we can operate in either of those areas very happily. And I just want the other people to know, since we will be operating there and not going on that side, you may see people on e-foils that own them in town. They're not gonna be us. But we do have a line of open communication. You can call us and say, hey, are you out there? The answer is gonna be no, because we're not gonna be operating in that area. But there are other people that do own them. So we can't control what those people do. We can only control, because we'll be watching everybody. We have helmets, we have life vests, we're getting walkie-talkies, we're doing safety briefings. We really want to do this right. We want to ensure that all the other businesses, if they have an issue, they can reach out to us and let us know. So this sounds like a great way to mediate this.
How many people at a time do you usually take?
Usually we just have two boards out there at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two, if we have a larger group, we may have at the most 4 boards
Yeah, yeah,
at one time, but, and
No
still
time
give
soon,
them,
though.
yeah,
Definitely just
no
gonna start
time
with
soon.
two.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 to 3 boards
Right.
maximum,
I
know,
was just curious.
yeah.
Usually with one of them with a coach on it.
Can you do 5 miles an hour on it? And
Yeah, we can regulate the speed on them.
because
They-
that's a moving field as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You get
Right, it's a smaller.
Control the speed?
We can't remotely control the
You
speed, but
have to,
part of,
But you can,
Talk
you
to
can
people.
remotely stop them,
you
or
can
that's the user.
regulate the speed on the remote control, and we can tell them in this area, you can only go up to speed number 5, which is about 5 miles an hour. And then once we get to the open area where we start hydrofoiling, you can go up to speed number 9.
Yeah, you're also just gonna have a much wider open area.
Yeah,
So-
I think that might be much better, and we'll
Yeah,
feel
we're
more comfortable too. We don't want to get sued. We
Yeah.
don't want anyone to get
There's a lot
either.
of dolphins there.
I mean,
There's a
Your
lot.
life anyways, and again, this is something that is not for us to
Yeah.
do, that's something that the harbor master's office will deal with.
Specifically, Madam Chair, I have a presentation on like the safety impacts of these vessels in context of other harbor uses. Could I present that? And then that might be a good.
Sure. And so, is there anyone else, I don't wanna, we have a lot of public comment, and I don't wanna get into, this is not, a fully open, like, so is there any other public comment on this at this time? Because I don't want everyone just keep chiming in, as the ideas come into their mind. So is there any other public comment? Otherwise, I'm gonna close. Yes, please.
Michaela, I have a comment. It's Ginny.
Ginny, there's someone in the room who's gonna speak first, and then,
Okay.
we'll hear you after.
Cool.
No, I was talking to Ginny. So Ginny, just hold on a second. Can you state your name?
Yeah, I'll just read this. My name is Kenneth Ross. I've been a permanent year-round resident of Provincetown for the past 38 years, including 15 years as a successful business owner here in town. And more recently, the general manager at Aquabar. The applicants in this case, Joey Forshaw and Finn Taylor, have submitted a proposal to us. This business has already been operated in Katuitt for the last few years, with 0 incidents or complaints to the harbor master there. I stand up to give a personal reference for one of the applicants here, Joseph Forshaw, and all the clarity. I've not known from Lake very long. I've known Joey for about 10 years. I've known Joey for about 10 years, both as a co-worker and most recently as his manager at Aquabar here in Provincetown. Joey has always proven himself to be a creative, innovative, and honest addition to our staff at Aquabar, as well as also being what I consider a close personal friend. I've observed Joey in many situations to exhibit both professional courtesy and regard for the safety of our patrons. I think I can speak for both the owner and management team at Aqua when I say that his quick thinking and problem-solving skills, among other qualities, have helped fine-tune our business markedly these past several years. I've also been with Joey a number of times on his own boat here in the harbor and can attest to his knowledge of and cooperation with local and state marine regulations. I feel Joey can be trusted to operate his own business with the same integrity and professionalism that I have witnessed in him the past several years, both on and offshore. I encourage you to move forward with this application to allow these 2 young men to further enhance opportunities for residents and visitors alike to be able to get out on the water and enjoy the relationship we all share with our beautiful waterfront and harbor here in Provincetown.
Thank you, Kenneth. And Ginny, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, hi, Ken. Hi, everyone. I just have 2 things I'd like to add to your recommendation, and one is that this be presented to Melissa Millette as the conservation agent and potentially go to the Conservation Commission just to discuss the unintended consequences of things that might happen under the water, as Susan pointed out. And, if people drift and then they have to stop because they're in the way of somebody else and they end up plopping down where there's eelgrass right below them. I think there are some concerns that need to be addressed, or at least some protocols that need to be in place. And then the other thing is that Susan mentioned that I agree with is the Swim for Life. So we do the Swim for Life now that we're not allowed to do it from Long Point because of sharks. We do that from the Johnson Street parking lot. They swim from Harbor Hotel to the Johnson Street parking lot. So there are a number of swimmers who are practicing at the end of the summer that try to do the whole thing to make sure that they're not going to drown on the day. So I have those concerns. I appreciate Ken and trust his judgment. I've only known him for 40 years, but I also think that it's important that we cross our T's and dot our I's. in terms of conservation of the land under the water and for the other users of the harbor.
Okay, thank you. So is there anyone else for public comment? Or Marty, you can speak, yes.
Okay, there might be conflicts within our policies currently, gray areas, several gray areas, and that has nothing much to do with that situation. Probably would want to make a recommendation of updating some of our policies. If there's gray areas that we should make recommendations about.
Sure, so just to respond very briefly, because again, we've spent a lot of time on something that this is, just for clarity, this is not an application before us. We do not have the purview to allow or not allow this. We can certainly make recommendations and we can certainly advise the harbor master in his role as an authority to issue violations, to enforce harbor regulations. We are not conservation. We do not have any authority over Chapter 91. We are not agents of the DEP. So excuse me, sorry, we have a microphone, so it's hard to hear. So I just want to be very clear on we're advising. There's nothing, we're an advisory board to the select board. There's nothing before the select board at this point. So we can certainly take in all of these things. The harbor master is the person to speak to if there are any potential violations or if there are any issues or safety concerns that anyone has. You can bring them to the harbor master's office directly. There are a lot of gray areas with the harbor regulations, and those are something that we are actively working on updating. They're not updated at this time. We're also working on updating the harbor plan that is not updated at this time. So as these concerns come up, those are things that we can do. But I really don't want to spend any more time on this.
And if over this season, we find out that there do need to be regulations, then we can work as a board to help draft a bylaw that we then present to the select board. But like,
That we recommend to the select board.
Last thing that I could put in, we made an attempt to reach out to all the other rental agencies and everyone else, just to give them our contact information. So if there is any issue, we can resolve it and make sure that their clientele is safe and our clientele is safe before anything becomes an issue.
Sure. I mean, you could even talk to Chase at Coyote. Again, this is just a random suggestion from a person because we do not have to do this. You can talk to Chase at Coyote Kayaks and he has a lot of space there and that's something that you might be able to figure out with
And
him.
I know them well.
Great.
You know me, Coyote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But so I think that you guys have heard what we have to say. I think that you've heard the many things from concerned abutters who are maybe no longer going to be your abutters if you're going to be in the East End. So hopefully that should resolve itself. And good luck for this season.
Way to go, East End.
Is there are determinations in the harbor regulations that I have made in this situation. I'm going to walk the public, you folks, and the committee through them so that you can all follow along with my thinking as I engaged with this business over the last few weeks. So first I want to turn to the history of watercraft regulation in Provincetown. As of 2002, there's a bylaw on the books, 1342, which provides areas where they can operate and restricts their operation below that of other types of watercraft. These bylaws are not uncommon. They're in fact very common in coastal communities around the country. And the basis of these bylaws, having read a number of them and looked at contemporaneous reports and newspapers and town meeting minutes and whatnot, there are three main reasons that members of the public and regulatory boards create bylaws restricting PWC use. And as you mentioned, Ms. Avalar, this regulation in Provincetown was actually challenged in a court of law, and there was a ruling issued in 2006 that upheld the town of Provincetown's right and ability to dramatically restrict personal watercraft specifically for a number of reasons. The plaintiffs, Mad Maxine was the business that operated here, and in that case argued that provinces didn't have the right to regulate it because these were public trust lands, and so they were held in common trust for all members of the public. And the defendants, the town of Provincetown, the then harbor master, argued that they did have the right to regulate them for public safety and essentially correcting an injustice. We make laws in society because someone's action is harming somebody else, and that's an injustice, and laws help us bridge that gap and create justice for all. So ensuring public fairness is the point of this bylaw in terms of how it is meant to operate. So the question, if, as the courts have upheld, unrestricted PWC use creates injustices, do e-foils create similar problems? There are 5 attributes here, which when assigned to a jet ski, create these disproportionate impacts. And for comparison's sake, I've put 2 other types of motorboats. Your typical rental boat, for example, if you're a member of the Freedom Boat Club, you can rent a twin 200 horsepower, 30-foot center console from the Provincetown Marina. You could rent a pontoon boat from Flyers. Many people have experience renting from Flyers. I've done it when I was a kid. Or you could rent an e-foil. And so as vehicles, e-foils are new, they're new technology. What are they more similar to in terms of their potential to create these injustices in harbor uses? Some of the most impactful things across 3 key areas: safety, noise, and weight, or sort of hydrodynamic disturbances. I want to go into each of those more deeply. So are e-foils compatible with shared public use of the harbor from a safety perspective? When we evaluate the destructive potential of a vehicle, how heavy is it and how fast is it going? A bullet is very light, but it travels very quickly. So guns are highly regulated. There is no safe speed at which you should be hit by a cement truck. They're very heavy, and so they should go very slowly and be very careful.
Pete, sorry, can I interrupt you for one?
Yes.
So just looking at your comparison safety thing. So good in some ways that it's completely silent, not great in other ways that if you're another operator and you can't hear something coming and something is coming, even if it's 15 miles an hour and you're a swimmer. So just my recommendation, and again, this is not something that have whistles on the life jackets that you provide so that if you can blow a whistle if you're coming upon somebody and they can't hear you because you're quiet, or the same way that you have a bike bell and you're telling people to get out of the way. So yeah.
I just briefly say,
Yeah.
like, when it makes no noise above the water, if like you're swimming, your ears under the water, you can kind of hear the hum from the motor.
Yeah. But I think just having a whistle in the same way that you have a bike bell to ask people to get out of the way, I think that that's a good.
Yeah, that's easy.
Just before you continue, for
Yep.
the purpose of the minutes, I have to go to Outer King.
So me, Cliggett Pearl is excused at 2:40. Later.
We're looking at the potential destructive energy of a collision between objects. PWCs are heavy and travel very fast. These objects more resemble bikes or e-bikes in terms of their total destructive energy. And so if you look at the graph, we look at kinetic energy as the unit here of collision energy. PWCs are between motorcycles and cars, closer to cars because they go so fast at their potential collision speed. Based on the 15-mile-an-hour limit and the average weight of a rider being around 150 pounds, e-foils will be much more similar to a bike or an e-bike or a very small boat. And so moving on to noise from an irritation perspective, jet skis have been described in many cases as like chainsaws on the water. And I've personally rented a jet ski for half an hour, found it so freaking irritating that I returned it. But other types of noises we tolerate on the harbor currently, rental boats have a lower pitch noise that's still audible. But the e-foils in terms of their public impact for other water users, apart from being not avoiding them perhaps, but from people who are on shore, and not finding that they will have a noise impact for other public use. And then in terms of the weight and their hydrodynamic influence on the environment, jet skis can create waves 1 to 2 feet, but they're a very short period. They're very choppy. And so they can be very destabilizing to swimmers. They can upset paddleboarders or small sailboats, center console boats or pontoon boats that can be operated at unrestricted speeds in the harbor. We have many hundreds who do so, create very large waves, which would capsize these vessels. E-foils create very little wake. And so in terms of and then I wanted to compare their operating environments. And so I called the Barnesville Waterway Safety Officer to talk about the operations that he's seen for 4 years. And he reported no negative impacts. He said he discussed with you where good places to operate were. I called Megan Hopwood, who is our officer with the Mass Environmental Police, and she said that e-foils are, in Massachusetts state law, they are motorboats, and so they require individual registration. Operators have to have insurance, or the vessel has to have insurance with it. Operators must wear PFDs, and the final regulations have not been deployed yet, but they are very likely to be regulated by the Hansen-Malone Boater Safety Act, which is going into effect next year, as we discussed. And so like any other operator of any other motorboat in the harbor master office will ensure that these operators are following those laws.
But are you also of the safety of life vests, all that
Oh,
stuff?
yeah. Well, you,
Well, you do.
We have
Yeah.
all that stuff right
Yeah,
here.
just,
Helmets, like that's, walkie talkies, so people can call.
Yeah,
just so you know.
absolutely. And I think
And our,
the operating area.
Mike,
Harbor,
sorry, Mike, wanted to say something?
Are you done?
not quite.
Yeah.
One more slide. The Provincetown Harbor operating area for all motorboats, this is true whether you're an e-foil or you're a cruise ship. In the yellow restricted zone, close to shore, defined by the breakwater, the Ice House condominium steps, essentially Howland Street and the P-Town Inn. Not only no wake, but 5 miles an hour or headway speed, whichever is greater. So 5 miles an hour is a great limit. If you need to go faster than 5 to maintain steerage or control, like some large boats do, you can go at that higher speed. But ideally, your folks are going 5 miles an hour in that yellow zone, wherever you launch from, whenever you cross into that. In the blue area, which I've roughly, I mean, it's the whole rest of the harbor in terms of how the regs define it, but I'm deliberately avoiding the entire west end area where the Shellfish Grant area is, and I'm deliberately cutting off the shallow area below me in the water and the east end there, and drawing the Truro Provincetown border there. Any boat of any type can operate at unrestricted speeds in that area, as long as they maintain navigational safety in the red lines, which is the federal channels. So that's how our current regulatory environment and my interpretation of it applies to this operating.
But that will no longer be applicable to you. You'll be operating outside of that red line.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, they can't cross, they can't like create traffic problems crossing the red line, but in that whole blue area, there are not in our current regs nor in state maritime law limits, except that if there are swimmers in the water, all motorboats must go headway speed within 100 feet of any swimmer. So that is just a common thing across all.
And what about marine life?
Boaters' duties are to avoid marine life, but that is again common to all boaters. It's
Right, yeah,
Are you guys familiar with that? Because I don't know how much
It's been
wildlife you're
Protection Act, I think, of 1961. But essentially it can't be within 150 feet. So if
Whales or dolphins or.
seals, anything, yeah.
Absolutely.
there's huge pods out there at times.
Yeah.
So I think it would really restrict where you're able to go at those times. So,
so pretty fast.
yeah,
Like the dolphins.
yeah, but
So keep on speed dials.
I mean, it's the same with the boat.
a boat is a lot loud. I mean,
Yes. So that's the kind of regulatory environment that we're currently sitting in. And so from an enforcement perspective, they don't get any passes because they're small. They'll get extra scrutiny because they're new. I think the members of the committee will help us apply that just scrutiny. But from does the currently worded PWC regulation apply to these vessels? My ruling is no. These are not PWCs.
That's exactly, that's how
And again, these are, as the regulations are now, if there are issues, they will be brought to the harbor master, they can be, amended, but as a business owner, you don't want to get sued, you want your business to be as safe as possible, you want to deal with all those things, so I assume that you're going to do that in the same way that flyers, there's swimmers in the harbor, all of these things are things that we've been dealing with since the dawn of time, so.
Mike, yes.
I just wanted to chime in. Thank you for the presentation. I will openly say I am an aquaculture owner, so I did have some hesitation after the presentation and hearing how the ruling went with Peter and what his research was. We're not reinventing the wheel. I also feel like it's a great opportunity to work with you guys. It's a new and emerging, and as someone who loves new and emerging, I'm trying new things all the time. And a lot of times I'm wasting my own money doing that. But I applaud you on attempting something new, bringing it here early. It sounds a little more environmentally friendly. We do have every Yahoo in the world out there already renting boats. We know that. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to say thank you and at least coming to us and presenting it in a way and hearing some of my initial things. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I've fished a body out of the water and it wasn't fun. So to hear that you have life jackets, helmets, and you're thinking about safety, I appreciate that. Appreciate you took our feedback. And I look forward to seeing how it goes. And being open as one of the first ones here, I think anyone grab those and start renting them immediately. Starting just those is going to be interesting. So I wish you the best of luck. I appreciate for the opportunity for this group to actually maybe make some guidelines and in the future,
yes.
help regulate them in a way that can continue to keep the business here if it goes successfully. So thank you for that. Thank you. I do think there is an opportunity because I don't think they're going anywhere.
No.
And the only last thing I'd like to add is that I would like to see some uniformity that you're sending out so that we could recognize you, so we can differentiate you and we can tell Peter, if I'm out on my aquaculture, I've had these things. And our gear is 18 to 20 high. If it's only 3 foot of water there, you might clip it. I don't want to see anyone get hurt from a safety standpoint. So if I know it's not you, if I recognize, let's just say blue and white life jackets or whatever it might be, and I can say, okay, this wasn't you guys, and I can say it was somebody, if I call and say, hey, there's a guy buzzing around over here at high rates of speed, at least we know who we're dealing with. Or we can say, those guys are over here again. How are they doing? And it can be a conversation in a different way. So I think just being able to recognize who you are, because I think at this point, we all recognize who Flyers boats are. They have freedom boat on the side of those boats. It's much easier to identify that way. So that would be my only recommendation for an avid harbor user.
I think colored life jackets.
All of our life jackets so far, like almost neon colored, so super bright. We can make it like the same color.
Yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion
There's a
because
sticker on the helmet.
Yeah.
Let's see if they don't have helmets. That might be an option. A sticker or two on the sides of the helmet, just a way so because if you guys are doing it the way it sounds like, you've had no incidents up in Katuitt, I don't foresee problems here with this, but also give you guys not just a negative connotation towards them, but also the positivity saying, there they go again, on their route. Place, you're doing it well. Let's not give a bad name to everyone out there because of a couple people that might ruin it.
I appreciate that. That was kind of my point before is I think that's a great idea to make it visually separated because it will be following regulations.
No, I think that's a really good suggestion, and I think it will save you guys a lot of headache for, especially if, like Ms. Avila was saying, there's already somebody who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing on one of them in the mooring field, lives in the mooring field. You're not gonna sort of get tarred with the same brush. I also want to thank you guys because I do want to remind everyone that you were under no obligation to come before us and you were under no obligation to take any of our suggestions, which it sounds like you're very open to. So I want to thank you guys for that because people who are going to be good and responsible users of the harbor, and it sounds like you guys are really trying to do that. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate all of the suggestions.
So if there's nothing else from anybody, let's move on to the many other things that we have on our agenda that we do have purview over.
I'm gonna go get Nick to join the meeting.
Okay, great.
Can we please speak?
Thank you.
Is there a file that I can ship with this to, or should I wait?
Sure, I can take it.
How much skill do you have to do this? It's a personal question.
It's far easier than surfing or other water sports because the motor, so you don't have to.
For battle.
Yeah, and I also have these inflatable rafts that go around the board. It makes them super
Okay,
buoyant.
well, I have to listen.
It's super easy.
Like bowling gutters?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So-
Yeah, it gets trickier once you're.
I checked with town council, I checked with the harbor master, the town manager.
You can even.
The DPW,
There are a lot of different, and the way I coach people is, I don't have one standard coaching style for everybody, it's what's your like safety
only do it.
tolerance, and then if you want to stand, great, but a lot of people just stay on their knees.
Yeah.
And keep things at a slow pace. I'll let you guys want to try it, so.
Maybe. I told,
Guys, yes.
well, we went out with Pete and we learned a lot.
Isn't it? Did you go on the blue boat?
Yeah, he docked it. It was incredible.
Isn't it? It's a nice boat.
It's great. It was.
I appreciate your work.
Thank you so much.
Also,
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
See you around.
We're open books.
And you know where we are.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
That's that one.
Looking forward to working.
No.
Members of the committee, our honored guest.
thank you.
Our honored guest is Nick Robertson, town accountant and municipal finance expert extraordinaire. Yeah, if you want to join us.
Anywhere, I could be.
Nick helped me put together this slide. And this is the long-awaited budget item or agenda item on the Harbor Committee's purview of where can we raise and direct funds for harbor improvement projects for the public? And so,
Oh, yeah.
perfect. So I want to thank Nick for his patience in working with me and discovering minutia and nuances here that I think the committee will find very interesting. So there's three big buckets of money that the public puts in front of us. On the blue, the left side is the operating budget of my department, the Marine Department. And so it's composed of salary and wages for staff and then operating expense and contracted services. In addition, there's another sort of bucket of capital improvement projects. So for example, buying the new Marine One, the Blue Patrol boat. Those budgets don't roll over, nor do we exceed them between A and B unless there's a really, really good reason, and Nick agrees with it. But more interesting to everybody at the committee are the green and tan boxes, which describe two funds that have different inflows, outflows, and spending requirements, but do have significant resources in them. So Fund 1405, the Waterways Fund, is a special revenue fund. Inflows are both mooring fees and 1/2 of all boat excise taxes. I need to add that to the slide. Have you
Yes.
discovered that?
We both discovered that.
It was a mutual discovery, or a voyage of discovery. Outflows of that fund are best spent at town meeting via. Only spent at town meeting via a warrant article. An example of that is the town voted to transfer $67,000 to support the courtesy float.
Yes.
From that fund recently. The town also transfers $25K annually out of that fund to support the general operating budget, which is a tradition that's been going on for years. It happens with a lot of other SRFs as well.
Can I ask, sorry?
Yep.
So, if that is annually, being increased with half of the excise tax fees, what is the projected intake from those two revenues per year?
It
Varies.
It varies, but I would think on average, well, I'd have to look that up to figure out what the annual.
Is that
revenue
more or
is.
less maybe than the 25,000? That's
Much more.
Oh, yeah.
It's
much more.
bringing in much more.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've been taking 25,000 out, so if it wasn't much more than that 25, I don't think you'd have 177 in there.
And you
So,
took out 67 earlier this year.
Yeah.
and we also took 67 out, and then that number includes what we just took out for the courtesy flow too. So obviously revenue is much higher than
Okay.
that annual budget subsidy.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would be interesting to know, and again, not to put
I could get
anything
you an average
Yeah,
of the
just-
revenue in
yeah,
that account.
over the past 5 years or something.
Average revenue 5 years in 1405. You got it.
Thank you.
I'll send it to Pete and then he can
Perfect.
disseminate.
Thank you.
The especially because of the boat excise tax, that will be boat excise tax is determined by the boats in the harbor July 1st and August 1st. We do a survey and so report that to the assessor, and she then levies the excises.
Are boats that are not here, their hailing port is in Provincetown?
It's,
So,
the language is tricky and people may dispute them, so I don't actually have a lot of the details.
like, for
here.
example, the
Question.
West boats are out of Fairhaven, but are they?
And for commercial boats, that's a good question. So I need to follow up more on that, but the language does envision boats that are here seasonally. If you're here in July and August, your like preponderance of usage time is thought to be here. And so the state statute does anticipate that.
And the ferries? They're out of
The
Boston?
ferries, yeah, the boats are moored here essentially,
Okay.
looking for like proof that your residence was defined by the boat being here most of the time.
US Constitution's pretty much here all the whole time.
No. I'm sure for commercial operators, there's all sorts of other additional laws, and protected vessels probably have hailing ports, which their taxes go to, but there are certainly the number of valuable pleasure boats in the harbor is growing every year, and so careful enforcement and figuring out exactly what all those details are might yield beneficial revenues for the town.
And then, sorry to ask so many questions.
Sure.
So there are a number of boats that have slips, say for example, Provincetown Marina, but their hailing ports are, in the Cayman Islands. And that's obviously for tax purposes, but if they're here for 3 or 4 months, are they paying excise tax?
I'll find out. Okay.
Like that idea.
That's a good question.
Some of those boats I know for one of those boats, $25 million.
Yeah.
They're here all year, so.
Yeah, I think
surprised.
it might be designed kind of like a car excise tax. So it's where it's registered.
You declare
It's recommended.
where you moor the boat majority of the year when you register it. And I'm imagining that's where they're getting a bulk of the information.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Like if you may register your car to Boston, but live here
Yeah.
July through September.
Well, I just didn't know if there was like a loophole if they are here, because I know specifically a lot of them don't register in Massachusetts, don't haul them in Massachusetts in the winter because they don't want to pay the tax. But I wondered if there was a,
Yeah, federally documented vessels don't pay excise tax, only state registered vessels do. And almost all like passenger carrying vessels will be federally documented versus state. Like unlike cars, there is a status for boats that is like the US government gives you, like the registry of motor vehicles. And it's specifically to anticipate boats that travel between state lines all the time because water transportation, that happens. So. But more so, there's clearly a lot of questions we need to answer on the boat excise and especially how it influences these inflows. But I do think for
because
mass registered vessels.
scared for dinghy, like who cares? I mean, I think my excise tax on my car is like $17.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't matter, but boats that are, bigger, much more valuable,
Yeah.
that's.
There are gaps identified in our stuff, conflicting. And one of them is that the contribution late fees has been a problem. Recommended stricter enforcement or
Late fees for excise tax?
gaps in late fees. Yes. And
And there's mooring late fees as well.
yes, and there's a couple.
Well, yeah, like my car excise tax is like $17, but I didn't get a notification, so I had late fees, and so.
It's $25.
$97.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
all recommend stricter enforcement.
Yeah.
What I would suggest. Just from the information, the data that was produced from last year. Yeah. There's a transit vessels, 450 a day, fixed finger piers, 75 feet, 2005 rate. So there's some gaps identified. $12,000 in 2024. Recommended stricter.
And just a recommendation, Pete, just like motor vehicle boat excise, it's done through the assessor's office. So I would work with them to, figure out like fees, if, how they do that, because that's all in their bills that they generate. So you'll just need to include them in the conversation so you can get.
Yeah, we'd probably like that 12,000.
Yeah.
That would be enough.
Yeah, I don't know what their policy is now for late fees and stuff, or,
Yeah.
for excise.
It's obviously been missed, and they kind of lets things, loosey goosey.
The other fund, the lower one, 1613, the Harbor Access Fund, it is technically a trust and agency fund. And one neat feature of that is it can be spent with a Board of Select vote. So the committee could make a recommendation for a project or a funding stream, send it to the Board of Select for thumbs up, thumbs down, and then allocate that money to be spent relatively immediately relative to town meeting. And the current value of that fund is $117,000. The inflows were essentially, Nick, you explained this to me beautifully. So do you want to explain how DEP delegated to us the ability to bill an invoice for this fund?
I'm not sure which part of that we discussed that you want me to repeat, but basically it's chapter 91 fees that go into this fund. And of course that can vary depending on whether or not somebody's paid up their fees. Some of the chapter 91s, there's a big initial down payment almost like, 25, 30,000, then they pay like $500 a year for 20 years. So the revenue is fluctuating on that. Basically, the way this would be spent is, say the Harbor Committee came up with a project, you would probably check in through Pete with me about what your current balance is, just to make sure where you're at that time. And then Pete and I would work on a presentation for the select board based on what the committee voted. And we present that to the select board. If they vote on yes on it and approve the project and the funds, you can immediately dive into the project. You don't have to wait until a town meeting or anything.
So let me ask another question. Sorry for all the questions. So say, for example, someone had a loved one who passed and they wanted to donate the money for a kayak. What money would that fund go into?
That is a very good question. So, it wouldn't go into the waterways fund because that is an actual kind of fee-based I mean, the Harbor 91 is fee-based too. I'm not really sure where you would put that in. Access fund, because it's trust and agency, what a trust and agency fund legal definition is it is a fund that the town collects for another agency. So we're collecting technically federal agency money, DEP money. But that money is assessed by the federal government, but a certain amount of it belongs to us to spend. So even though we can spend it, we're like holding it for the federal agency. It's kind of a
Sure.
weird situation. A matter of fact, if you read a chapter 90, I don't know how many of you on the board have actually read a chapter 91 fee, but there's also, yeah, there's also a section about what they have to pay the
Yeah.
DEP too. So, I would say any gifts and donations would, at this point, probably have to go in the waterways fund. But I personally would not recommend that because I think you don't want to commingle gifts and donations with any of these sort of fee-based revenue sources. So what I would recommend you do is we can work together. I'll work with Pete. I think we should go to the select board and just establish a third harbor committee gift fund account.
When we call it
That you
gift
can-
fund, could it be much looser terminology? And I'll let you know why I'm going that direction. Some of the discussions we've come up with, and I know Marie and I have talked about this at length, is ways to bring in some fees to possibly use some of these funds to put in like transient mooring, ways to take money from people that are here for the day and that haven't been done in the past, to continue to use to upgrade the facilities, the dockage, the cleats, whatever it may be. So having a little more just harbor committee control over those funds, would that be a place we could also,
Like if we
As we-
charge people an hourly rate for using the dinghy dock, if they come.
I would actually put that all under the waterways fund. I think those would qualify under the waterways fund because you're talking
But
about.
then we'd have to go to.
that go to town meeting? This is more of a fund that we want to try to attempt to use more regularly for upkeep. So like the prime example that we're mostly talking about right now is for the dinghy dock. The dinghy dock, many people use it that aren't right now paying fees. We want to find a way to like give a transient fee. So let's say $50 a day. We want that $50 to come right back
Yeah.
to be able to be used for maintenance, or like if, let's say we put a machine up there, it needs to be worked on.
Yeah.
We want immediate access to those funds. Same with the kayak rack. Someone gives us $1,500 and says, make a kayak rack. Well, we want to be able to honor their wishes and make a kayak.
Not go to.
Not have to go to town meeting, not have to go to the board of select every time we want to spend
Well,
$1,500.
let me-
That even.
That kind of thing is well encapsulated, I think, via the operating budget of the pier.
Yes, but what you're going to, the danger in that though is if you don't spend it, it goes into free cash. You're going to
You
lose.
can't carry it over and it's
You can't
also,
carry it over.
Right,
So-
but
Yes,
Yeah.
both those funds carry over, 1405 and 1613. They both roll over, so the money never leaves the harbor.
could it be a gift and fees fund? I mean, do we have the option to create a
Yes,
business fund?
you could do something, for example, like the recreation department has a recreation revolving fund. So recreation does a field trip to mini golf. They charge every kid $15 for mini golf. They collect those fees. Then they go and they play mini golf, and out of that same fund, they pay the golf people for the rental of the course for those 2 hours. So you could establish what we would call a revolving fund. That is done through, I believe a revolving fund has to be established by town meeting.
Okay.
So if we have a fall town meeting, it could be presented on the fall town meeting thing. Otherwise, it would be April again. So you'd be a little stuck without that capability, but it might give you guys enough time to really think about where can we charge these sort of fees? What type of expenses would we use it on? And be really well prepared for presentation to Alex Morse about putting on the town warrant and then the select board. Because they look at the warrant and they'll, if they see certain articles, they ask questions about. So you want to be prepared, but, I don't see why, I mean, you can request that. That would be the best type of fund to do that with, is a revolving fund.
The final thing we discussed.
And they roll over too, so that way the money doesn't go back into free cash. That's the main thing. If you're doing this to support the harbor and what's the needs of the harbor, you don't want it to roll back, close out and go to free cash at the end of the year.
For maximum flexibility and direction, you could establish a separate 501c3 Friends of. So
So-
Friends of the Harbor should take donations.
Operating a 501c.
No,
No, we don't.
individuals unaligned with the town.
I feel like the harbor committee operating a 501c3 would be a gray area. I don't want to necessarily get into that.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
decided.
It would be
The committee could
us go
decide.
start our own group.
Yeah, I-
Much more like the idea of being able to come here
Yeah.
once a month, twice a month, have this money being able to come in. And like I
You're-
said, there's the intent of the law and then the spirit of the law. Like people are bringing us money, they want a kayak rack. We want to find a way to make sure we try to get a kayak.
Now, if you did a revolving fund too, you could also include in that revolving fund gifts and donations. You could include, like, if you guys wanted to, I don't know, carry, like, order some sort of like bag with the town seal on it for the kayaks, like, like a wet bag or something, you could sell those like at the firehouse.
Yeah.
And put all that money into the revolving fund. So you could do things like that, or just ask for gifts and donations.
Breathe on.
So, about 2 years ago, we were approached about, with the Provincetown Public Art Association or whatever their name is, about, doing a mural on the seawall between McMillan and Cabral or Provincetown Marina. And they have been sort of figuring out ways to do that. Their plan was that they would give the money to the town, but then the obstacle that they walked into is that if they gave the money to the town, because it would be public funds and public property, that then they would have to put out an RFP, but they wanted to specifically use an artist, but they would have to put it out to bid for any artist to bid on it. So my suggestion to them was, in lieu of donating the money, that they raise the money and pay the artist that they choose and donate that gift as a whole to the harbor committee, and then the harbor committee could then.
And the purpose of donating it to the harbor committee, would that be assuming that
They
the
don't,
pier harbor would
because they don't have,
maintain it?
well, no, the reason is because it belongs to the town, and that they can't just put a mural on public.
Would this
property.
give, that would then give us this leeway, that fund, right? To
Right.
pick who
Well,
we
that's-
chose to do.
So they donate the whole gift, they're
Yeah.
not donating money, they're donating,
Yeah.
they've raised the money, they've paid the artist.
I'll
they've donated the
investigate
gift.
that and see what the legal ways are to do that. It might be similar to what they just voted on for the Fisherman's Memorial. So for example, what the town did is the select board said, we are going to donate this little 5x5
Yeah.
area of the Fisherman's Walkway, I think, or the on the pier. They said, we're going to donate to this organization or this group use of this little piece of town property, but they are raising all the money. They are, and similar to that, they've already committed to,
Romulo.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they don't have to bid that out. So they're raising the money, they're going to create and pay for the monument, but the town basically leased them the land for free.
Yeah,
So that's the best way to do this wall. You would go to the select board with this proposal and say, will you basically grant us permission to put a monument or a public work of art here, but it's all going to be paid for by private donations, private
Yeah.
fundraising.
yeah,
And then they could choose the artist.
okay. Can I give you this before I forget? It's a letter. Perfect. Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions?
Jim Vincent would like to join us at a future meeting because he has several ideas, especially on the Harbor Access Fund, of great projects to undertake that would dovetail nicely with the Chapter 91 working group and the enforcement.
For the next meeting,
Yep, and so he asked me to put some thoughts in your heads to think about for next meeting. For example, there are a number of, a great use of the Access Fund money, also the Waters Fund money, is to engage with a consultant to help us design something that we might want designed or built. So for example, if we wanted a harbor walk that really connected many properties together in a holistic experience with lighting, signage, accessible paths, et cetera, then we could get something kind of like big and defining built along the harbor in certain ways. And so having a design consultant put that together for us and then could execute it with this money, that might be,
Feel like people have, there seems to be like a contingent that has a real turn on for the harbor.
I know.
Like the whole town is a harbor walk, and it seems like a.
or other uses, as just as one example of what we
Can we
like.
just bring someone in to just figure out chapter 91 for us?
What is the harbor?
There's good news. I haven't anyone
You know
update
that
as well.
We've actually seen designs for it.
Yeah, it seems,
Yeah.
to me,
It goes DOA very quickly.
yeah, I feel like there's many other better.
Or other things.
But I'm willing to listen to hear what,
Yeah.
bring him in.
Yeah,
Let's talk about it.
absolutely. I just, yeah.
I think,
But you have to
No.
pay to bring them in?
no, this would be a discussion.
Bring
No,
Jim
just,
in.
just,
Oh, yeah.
Jim,
I don't wanna spend, $50,000 getting an engineering group to tell us about a harbor when we don't have public bathrooms, we don't have showers, we don't have laundry, we don't have a free dinghy
Dinghy
dock.
dock.
We have a maybe working courtesy float we'll see in a year once the warranty's over. So to me, it seems like, there's a lot of things that I would like to see before I see that.
Good things to think about for next meeting, especially because we can dive into that and then
Yeah,
put together a project.
we have the hundreds of piers and marinas that I've seen in the United States. One of the worst user experiences and lacking in facilities. And until we have an improvement for that and an improvement for, our fishing fleet, which is the backbone of our harbor, I like for people to walk their dogs that are already walking on the beach sounds insane to me. But that isn't my
Yeah,
perspective.
I agree.
But I'm absolutely open to
Yeah.
hearing anything.
Great.
But I do want to keep reiterating, we need to figure out our fishing fleet. We need to figure out a HACCP facility. We need to figure out, I was driving with Mike's stepdaughter yesterday in their car, in their oyster van, and we parked somewhere and somebody wrote a note on the car saying like, hey, if we'd love to buy your oysters if you can sell direct. And guess what? They can't sell direct because they don't have a HACCP facility. And why in this town where we have, grants that you can lease, do we not have a HACCP facility where fishermen or aquaculture people cannot sell direct to consumers? Why are we having these insane markups? Why do we have, restaurants who are marketing local oysters that are coming from Prince Edward Island?
Yes.
So, and there's a gray area in the law there that they can buy oysters for 25 cents cheaper, and then they're coming from Canada and marketing them as local oysters, and local fishermen can't sell direct to restaurants. So until we have nipped that in the bud, that's how I feel.
I have a question not related to this funding, but is there more to do with this?
Yeah.
Not on the funding switch now.
You guys have any other questions for me? Seriously.
before you boogie, I don't want to let this other potential opportunity for a much more accessible money spot. I don't want to let that go just yet. Is it too early in the game to make a motion that we make this fourth account?
So we would have to go to the select board.
Yeah, but if we put it together now and at least maybe think about it, and work with Nick.
You can work on it now, and what you do is you kind of get the select board on board with you, but it does have to be
Town meeting.
a town meeting vote to create a revolving fund.
So why don't we say, I don't think we need to vote on it. Mike, why don't we say that you maybe talk to Nick and flesh it out a little bit more on what the legalities are?
The good thing about that is by getting prepared and doing it and presenting it to the select board, say in an upcoming meeting, is if there is a October meeting, town meeting, special town meeting, you're not scrambling. Usually with the fall town meetings, it's like a very quick turnover. Because it's not a scheduled town meeting.
And they cost a lot of money to put on.
So the town manager really tries to not, like if a resident comes with a petition article. They really try and say, how urgent is this? Can we move it to the April meeting? Because it is an expense to put it on your
The
absolute.
harbor committee is not getting a special town meeting in October.
No, but
The big budget line
but
item.
I'd rather
Yeah.
put it in
Yeah.
place now, so
Yeah.
the next town meeting, we
Yeah.
can just,
It's
here's our
ready to go.
warrant,
You
here's
just
our
go
article.
through
Yeah.
And it's ready to go
Yeah.
for the warrant.
So do you maybe want to
Yeah.
flesh that out?
I'll work with
Bring it
Nick.
back.
Yeah, then we can talk about the couple different, like legally, what we can add to that, what fees we could, where the money source.
Yeah, and I'll do some research too on
Thank you.
my end about if there's different requirements for a harbor revolving fund versus, say, a recreation. They have different categories under revolving
Perfect.
funds for what type of.
I'll come track you down, and
Yeah.
Nick's already showed me there's a lot of rules you can't bend. when- Corporate and public
We
finance,
want to know the ones that we can.
boy, we closed mouth on that too.
Thank you, Nick.
Oh, yeah, you guys are.
Thank
welcome.
you, Nick.
Thank you.
Do you ever have any
See
questions?
you always.
Yeah, good to see you. If any other questions come up, just, email Pete and he'll
Mhm.
forward them.
I'm happy
Thank
to
you.
have your connection to all things Nick.
Great shirt too.
Oh,
Yeah, nice.
Really good.
All right, upcoming events, I don't think.
Cool. So a quick review of the nor'easter. Prior to the storm, your harbor master team went around the harbor and tried our best to make sure everyone was tied up safely. For example, we recommended boatmen flip their anchors so that those anchors didn't chafe through their lines. We recommended this vessel owner add a second line to an unrelated fitting on their boat. During the storm, winds were 50 miles an hour plus possible direction for fetch, and so we had very strong wave impacts in the inner harbor. The west end specifically, and so to illustrate some of those. Hold on, show you the window. Show the entire screen. So it's smooth on my screen. Apologies for those who are watching online. It's going to be better watching the screen, but this is a 34-foot sailboat, and those waves based on the boat's motion, as you can tell, is fully burying the bow as waves go through. So that motion creates extreme tension and also like whipsawing effects on the but our attenuator did very well. So wave attenuation is a solved problem and it works. And it was instructive for me to watch how the vessels we did tie to this attenuator behaved. I was a little shy about tying anything else there that we didn't absolutely need to. Sorry for the bad.
Would you be shy again, seeing how well it worked? Okay.
Yeah. My shyness was about that those vessels were broadside to the wind.
Uh-huh.
And
How
so,
clean it is now.
and so, now that I've seen how vessels, especially smaller or more, those are not the most well-founded sailboats. Those are really, we of course tied the shit out of them, right? There's like 5 lines each of those things. But I would be much happier with this experience using the attenuator. My audio. To shelter boats like Merlin's Roost, which was the houseboat that broke away. And so in the future, and something I said to the select board last week, your harbor master team will much more aggressively look to relocate vessels that are not, by virtue of their naval architecture, particularly designed for these conditions.
So that was a concern
Very
going.
refreshing because in the past it is.
I do have one question about that. All this extra work, you guys I guess this comes up with fees. I'd love to charge people for shit, I guess. What are we gonna do? Why are you guys going out there and saving everyone's ass, when really it should be on the owner of the vessel? So is there a way to
I mean, how's an owner of a vessel in a dinghy gonna get out? And that becomes.
well, there's a time and a place, but in the middle of a storm, probably not, but if you're going out and re-securing lines, adding an extra line and flipping anchors, is there a way to it's just not common for the people just to assume Peter's gonna do it, the harbor master's gonna take care of it. I'm just here to use my boat 3 times a year.
You raise several good points, and I have the balance we're trying to strike is first, these vessels are liabilities to others if they break free.
Right.
And so your municipal government is to backstop the safety of other harbor users. So that is our first priority. We didn't flip Moment's anchors, Chris did. Or he had them flipped. So he went, someone else.
He came out.
He came out and did it.
Coming in
Yes.
As he was like, I'm just doing these and I'm.
Our job is to notify, and if at the very last minute we would have done it, for that reason of stopping the other.
And I-
but it is mostly to
I much
help
appreciate
everyone.
that.
Yeah, to create that.
I appreciate it as somebody who,
Yeah.
you were like, you should.
I mean,
Be like, okay.
we sustained probably $15,000 worth of damage to our farm, I think, when all was said and done.
Yeah.
We lost cages of full, ready to go to market oysters. And this was stuff that should not have been because of the rising tide and
Right.
heavy winds. You know, so it was an anomaly, I think, for us.
It
But,
was,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it was like, I also don't want to see I think you guys have so much more on your plate. Do you guys have a
it is for the grid.
forward to enforce differently, or what's your thoughts?
It was very helpful to have this event. Not helpful in that way, but like it certainly will inform what we do going forward. And so for each of these vessels that broke away or foundered or had an impact, there are lessons that are already like operationally changing how we do things. And I'm working on writing like a formal like little case by case analysis so that we can promulgate it more efficiently across you guys, select board, other interested parties. Which should also inform our regulations. And so one thing I would like this group to tackle before the next storm is I would like to propose language to update the insurance requirements for the harbor. The regs currently require liability insurance that does not cover wreck removal or environmental remediation. It was a good faith attempt. It does not. It just does not.
No, I definitely think we should do that. I think that requiring small dinghies is not necessary, but anything that, we can say over horsepower or
I think
length.
I think the problem that happened before, it was super cost prohibitive.
if you have the required liability insurance, adding wreck removal and spill remediation is inexpensive.
Yeah.
So
Inexpensive?
inexpensive.
Oh.
The liability insurance is expensive because
Well, I said that as well, but I guess he said towboat doesn't.
towboat will charge you. If towboat tows your boat and you don't have salvage insurance, you get,
Unless you buy it through them.
What if you have unlimited towboat?
that's so towing, salvage and wreck removal are three different categories. And this is something I need to put before you guys in a structured format so that I'll put this together with some.
No, already out there.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear
I
me?
know.
Hi. Sorry, I forgot about this meeting. I just logged in about 5 minutes ago. So, yeah, so if you have a Towboat US membership, all that covers is towing, jump starts, soft on groundings, things like that. As far as salvage and wreck removal, they're two separate things. Wreck removal is kind of like a contracted removing of a vessel that's like either hit the rocks or sunk, or we usually use the wreck removal when it's like a total loss or if the boat's not of any value. Usually ranges between 250 a foot to like 400 a foot, and then otherwise time and materials, which is everything by the hour, like bags and chains and compressors and pumps and cranes and all that stuff. It's all separate. So it adds up really quick. Some of them are pretty easy, like the sailboat on the beach was pretty normal, just kind of get it off and get back in the water and put it back on its mooring. But like the Comier boat was time and materials, it took all day with multiple people, bags and compressors and extra boats and barges and towboats and cranes and all that stuff. So, I mean, it adds up. But luckily that boat didn't have any pollution on it. So, I mean, once you get into the pollution side too, you really want to make sure they have a pollution policy, because if you get like 300 gallons of diesel spilling out into the harbor, that adds up extremely quickly. Most policies are like $1 million on stuff like that. So it's just something you got to think about if you're going to dive into it.
No, did Nicole's insurance cover that?
Yeah, it should, I believe. I haven't talked to her Progressive since last week, but I believe she had enough coverage for all of it. But she had $100,000 in wreck removal on her policy.
Oh, can I ask
so.
this, Michaela? For example, if there's a boat that, is barely going to be insured because it's barely seaworthy, but they can get, whatever the base insurance is, and they can't get, everything else. Is there any policy that someone can get through you? Like, so could we say to people, you need this insurance or this type of membership with Towboat?
I've seen Towboat doesn't offer that, or Geico, I don't believe, but I saw some stuff on like Progressive where they had like like Grimaldi had money for a removal of the boat if it was on the rocks or things like that. Like he had like a $10,000 rider or something like that on his policy from Progressive, which was liability only. So I think they do offer it. I think it's really just the bigger boats. I think it's already stated in the harbor plan when they did it. It's any boat over 24 feet, or is it 18 feet? I can't remember. But I believe you guys have most of the language in there. But I just think it'd be important just so the town doesn't get stuck with some of these people that don't necessarily have anything on their boat, and we get stuck with all these sailboats that are in the harbor, because those are generally the ones that end up on the rocks and things during nor'easters. So I also like boats that are older. They're gonna have a hard time getting things like that on them because insurance companies have been getting privy to that. So I don't really know how to write it for you guys. It's kind of a large topic.
That's why you're gonna join the committee so you can find out.
Well,
Yeah.
so what about that?
So Pete, I have a question. So we're basically like, when we're saying to people, like, you need X, Y, and Z insurance, and that, so are we mandating that people have to essentially give us their full insurance plan?
We look at
And we have to
look at a declaration of
Okay.
coverage page, yep.
Because otherwise people are gonna say, yeah, I have it.
So
They have to upload it to the
So-
mooring.
It's on, yeah.
some of the wording, and again, this is kind of on the same track I was going, and I know brought up, like, we're owning some of these vessels, we're owning the damage. They're just walking away from it, like, without going to litigation and all that. So in what you're gonna propose to us, if I'm hearing it correctly, is like the additional insurance that we may require on these vessels, including the town as additionally insured, et cetera. Is that what you're kind of heading towards?
Exactly, it's modifying this to better reflect the possible negative impacts of these vessels to town.
Oh, what happens if
So yes.
have insurance?
Well, I mean, we usually don't touch them until we get payment from the owner. And generally, like most of the time that works out. But I mean, there's been a few years that have gone by here where I've just disposed of them on my own and taken the burden of it, which I don't really like doing. So, I mean, I think there was one sailboat that was just so trashed, we kind of just threw it in the pile with the other one a couple times.
What's the recourse with that if somebody's not insured? So
Well, a
in
lot of
order
these
for the
people, some of
town
these
to
people
then
don't even have an
sue-
address, you know? Yeah, like they don't even
Right.
have an address, a lot of these people, so it kind of, you go after, it's like kind of trying to,
I
milk
mean,
the
also
boat,
that's gonna
you know?
cost the town or you, tens of thousands of dollars to take these people to court for money that they
Yeah.
probably don't have.
Might also be a
Right.
use of that fund, the Board of Select Vote Fund. If
I just
we
would
need
really
to,
like
if we
it
need to
if-
backstop NOAA with $5,000 to pay for the removal of wreck that the owner disappeared or we can't identify or whatever.
But to me, that is essentially giving a permission structure for people to not have it.
So we'd have to enforce the regulation as well. We need to do both. And for example, C, any investment to make the insurance requirements must write a bond. The idea that if someone would give us $100,000 cash bond seems very unlikely. Also, if Nick was here, I don't know where we would put that money.
Under-
But then it's subject to removal.
On black.
Yeah, right. It could be deemed removal by the harbor master, but then we are seizing a boat and, so it's a sticky wicket.
Well, and town council is not gonna do shit.
No.
So,
So I like the idea, if you're willing to help us formulate this wording properly to better protect the town, the harbor, and the other users of the harbor, I'd love to see it.
can we?
You really need to get like a maritime lawyer involved, because maritime law is like crazy. It's like people specialize in it.
And can
So, I
we
mean, I could
ask
give you
Noah
some
to go
contacts.
over?
Noah, can you pass me your lawyer? And I'm happy to see if he can contract with us to help on this specific issue, because I know that KP Law does not do maritime law. So.
Well, and can we also ask
Yeah.
Noah to, like, whatever we put in to go over to see if that will cover? Because I mean, at the end of the day, he's the one who's gonna be doing it. So I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, there's no
point in
silver,
putting in
I don't
anything.
think there's any silver bullet to making it happen, but I think if you guys require that on like the majority of the boats, you should be able to alleviate a lot of the pressure on the town for things like that.
Also,
You know what I mean?
I think it's also fair, I mean, anyone on the commercial pier is required to carry additional insurance. Why are we holding half the vessels in the harbor to a higher standard and placing the burden again on the commercial fleet. And like, no offense, like, I'm sure Noah's insurance isn't cheap. Why does he have to carry more than the guy he's going out there to save? So, or the boat to recover.
Right.
And I think it's unfairly burdened on the people that are commercial and, you know, a commercial entity.
So Pete, can we leave it that you will talk to Noah about exactly what he would require somebody to have in order to salvage or rescue? And maybe also talk to his lawyer, and that if that, whatever that costs, if that's not covered in your operating budget, we can bring that to the select board to take a chunk out of the waterways or the harbor gift, whatever it is. And then we can put it on our agenda whenever it's applicable to vote to update the regulation.
Will do.
Where does the houseboats fall under the vessel?
Same,
Depends on if they have a motor or not,
Well,
correct?
that's what I'm saying, if they don't have a motor. If it's-
Vessels are any structures that can be navigated on the waters. So floats are vessels by the harbor regulations definition.
Even if they're not self.
So
Yeah.
but floats that are under the 20 feet would not be subject to needing a,
Correct. The insurance regulations require any vessel except,
I mean, nobody's gonna have a houseboat that's under 20 feet.
right. And then.
Challenge accepted.
I know. Loophole.
It's 40. That's 42, actually.
Essentially, a small boat that doesn't have an engine doesn't have diesel in it, and so its maximum pollution impact is either debris or black water tank.
Yeah.
Sewage, untreated sewage. So, you know,
But there's an insurance requirement.
no, for small vessels, there's not an insurance requirement. So that's one of the things we might look at.
I think it's worth flushing out a little bit, no pun intended.
So we'll leave it with that for
Yep.
now.
More detail to come, but I want to time the pump on.
One question on the black water. So obviously we have the Clean Vessel Act. So if a boat, was able to, or if the boat hit the breakwater and before there was, contamination, could the pump out boat go?
Yeah.
That's a free service because that's paid for under the Clean Vessel Act.
Yep. So there was no black water tank on Merlin's Roost, which broke apart next to the shellfish grant. Obviously, there's like contamination issues there, but it's a composting toilet and it was empty.
Okay. All right. So
Time vessels are good. Mooring status is proceeding. Nothing terribly interesting there, I don't think, unless you have any questions. Dinghy dock update. Would be remiss not to introduce DJ Sigworth.
Hi.
DJ is a harbor master this season. DJ has had a lot of experience dealing with regulations and crowds professionally prior to taking this job. So he handled a lot of hot tempers and big personalities. And I think that does describe our dinghy dock. There is a ton of small text on the screen. I apologies. What you're looking at on the left and the right is a two-sided handout that we are drafting to give to every dinghy owner and put on every dinghy with the rules and the diagram, how the dock works. And then on the right-hand side, you see that wall of text with the internal staff standard operating procedure for how we as a staff will police the dinghy dock and make sure it works for all users.
Loyal to Danny.
How do you guys
Sorry,
feel
go
about
ahead.
solar powered? How do you guys feel about solar powered bilge pumps for all the
Do
dinghy
you
owners?
know
Just-
which boxes he's referring to in the barn?
I think, Michael, you need to go on mute. Mute.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I think that would.
Say, Michael, let me know.
I said I think that would alleviate a lot of your problems if you required them all to have solar powered bilge pumps with a battery or something like that. It would save the town time and energy and effort.
It comes back to also one of.
They don't always work.
I'd like to bring up the idea of,
Personal responsibility?
well, but let's make personal responsibility easier. Is there a way to put a hazardous fuel tank storage bin of some sort where at least they're off the dock? Somewhere near the top there's some couple small spaces that we could get whether it be metal or just somewhere for them to bring their gas tanks up out of the water. It'll start, if we can start there, maybe alleviating some of the problems, because again, it's the people that do the right thing that.
Well, and that was an issue I had with the previous harbor master was when, Maria was down there for like 4 hours pumping out people's boats and tanks were floating. And I was like, hey, what are we going to do with all of this And I knew from Calliope that there was, you know, in 3 weeks, there was gonna be a hazardous waste disposal, but what are people gonna do with the gas in the meantime? There's no.
I mean, why does it have to get contaminated? Why can't we have them pull it off their boats or have the harbor masters? And again, I don't want to like promote bad behavior. But if you're down there and the storm's coming out of the whatever and just put it up and it goes in a locker. And a locker, I think.
I mean, but sometimes it's not even a storm. Sometimes you get, it's raining, then all of a sudden it's a heavy rain, you don't.
And then you have the hazardous waste collection. But I was thinking for when we've had the couple northern blows that totally screw everything up and put 8 or 9 boats sideways and backwards and upside down. If there was a way just maybe to, or even on a regular basis, if people come and going to the float that only use their boat once a week, had somewhere to leave their gas tank and they can pick it up on the way down the dock.
I mean, I will say I would be very cautious about storing a ton of gas at the town's liability on the pier, especially after the Wellfleet fire, that I think people can take their gas tanks.
Quite often.
Oh, yeah.
Put it in a friend's yard.
The issue with gas tanks is that if you don't seal them or pull the cord off, a gas tank should be able to sit in the boat and not contaminate the water, right? Gas shouldn't fall out of the tank.
Yeah.
So I think one thing, to your point, Michael, though, I think that's one of the things we're gonna promulgate here is that this rule about you have to be able to vote, and if you don't, we can cite you. And so and we also know who you are because we're very close to make sure everyone has a permit. And if you don't have a permit and you're there for more than 4 hours, we're instantly tagging you. And we're also we're instituting a penalty box where here is what happens. If your first occurrence for more than 4 hours, you get a warning, but the very next time, penalty box, and then third every occurrence after that is penalty box plus $50 ticket. So we can enforce great seamanship and great responsibility for your boats by following this policy, I believe. And we can adjust it as necessary if it turns out not to work, but this is all in the existing regs. We don't have to do anything different to enforce the policy, let's just start doing it, you
Where
know?
will you remove it to?
The way we're anyway. AKA the sin bin.
Speaking of regs, the new reg with keeping your engine down in the water, I don't like, and I think is gonna lead to growth and like engine corrosion. And I understand, you know, not wanting to have inflatables that are getting pierced. I think inflatables should be in one section of the dinghy dock. And people should not have to keep their engines under, like people said today, will somebody wrap their engine in a trash bag and then put that down? What's to stop the trash bag from filling with water? And now we have a trash bag at the bottom of the, you know, so I don't think people should have to keep their, bought a new engine 2 years ago and then now my engine's gonna be down all season and like, yes, I get people have transient boats or people have transient and they're going out to their boat at night and they keep their engine up. That's not the majority of the boats. It's not just a transient dock.
For instance, right now, there's a big long boat in that last section. Their engine is down. If their engine was up, it would be hitting the boat across from it.
Right, so I mean, again, that's enforcement on the dinghy dock, but I don't think that everyone keeping their engine down 24/7 is good for.
I mean, on the outside edges where there's not a boat on the other side of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so.
We could require you put a bucket over your prop, so if it does hit stuff, it's bucket, not a prop. The point is that the engine's up or down, the point is that the engine's are sharp. And so if you could, I've seen people.
They
put
do require
colanders
that,
on them.
and Manchester by the Sea requires you to have a bucket on your engine.
Yeah,
everyone.
so for de-sharpening device,
Yeah.
colander, bucket.
Yeah.
So does.
And it's canvas. So I want to give DJ a chance to talk about what he's seen in the dock and his questions for you folks, how aggressively you want him to do various types of enforcement, what feedback you want to give him.
Give him a taser.
I'll just say the meeting's going really well. People are doing that.
I have one.
And then I would say the motor down is definitely a hot topic at the moment. So I think however aggressively we want to be on that would be a helpful steer.
Well, I would like to say that I begrudgingly got a dinghy dock permit, but
Why begrudgingly?
Well,
Why begrudgingly?
nobody else had to get one. I don't want to, you didn't want to get one either.
But I got one.
I also have one, but I do not want to keep my engine down all season, and I don't think
Do you
that.
want to be a beta tester of the bucket mitigating practice?
Sure,
We'd be
but
happy to sign you up.
inflatables are supposed to be on the furthest eastern side of the dinghy dock.
Is that in regs?
was Bayard's on the sign that you're under.
The regs are a little loose on like where things have to go, where they can go. It's a lot up to the harbor master's discretion or the pier manager. Our proposal is to limit the location of about a 10 foot and under or approximate, the kind of smaller boats, because they'll fit nicely into specific areas where we can limit. That's also mostly inflatables. And then the other sections can be for 10+ foot, which it gives an extra distance to extend for the longer boats. Also, I think then if, you know, someone was more insistent on keeping their engine up, down, then like that would be our spot for a bucket anyway, because there's more space there. Because it's like endless space. So like in the middle section, which is huge, and the ends, you can put much larger vessels because you have extra space. Where there's two sections where if you have 10 feet boats going off each finger, then there's only 5 foot maneuver in between.
So on the farther, on the eastern part where, on the eastern part, so I think larger boats should go under the gangway because there's a lot more space. I think having larger boats at like between the dinghy dock and the wave attenuator doesn't make sense because that's a narrow enough channel anyways, that if you have, you know, a 15-foot boat that's swinging around, that doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Keep all the small boats like from that. If you keep all the small boats in this area, like here, that's, you can stick a lot of them in, they can swing around, doesn't matter if you have the thing. This area here is perfect for bigger boats. They're out of everybody's way. You have that area to kind of like swing around. You keep any boat that
There's no cleats there.
but that's what I'm saying, so we need, that's a very.
So that we are, so part of what more clear where there's spaces, so it's not as free flow.
Here, these two, so I don't know.
Work really well for.
Well, that's what they say, no big boat.
I
Lost.
want to go one step further. If I'm restricted from going into the 10 foot or less, if I can't go in there, I don't want small boats. I want it to be
Good on you.
10 foot and less only, 10 foot and greater only.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be
Restricted 10 feet and under only, 10+ feet only.
only, yes, I would like, but I
You
want
want
to
it-
say
You're saying you
only.
don't want
Yeah.
any small boats.
I don't want
No shorties.
So
no
I-
sure, if it, see how it says up here?
Okay.
Um,
I think the only place you're gonna get a little pushback.
Small boats to go.
There's about,
And
there's 20.
Traditionally dinghies. People's boats.
But
So if I'm,
this
again, if I'm
one,
coming in and I don't. Lose my fucking mind. Just
Well,
like,
right. Small boat or whatever are gonna be forced to violate, and is the violations the same as the 3 steps that you put?
right,
I mean,
right.
because there was always
I mean,
gonna be
because if I come
people
in,
that-
and there's a spot at the 10 foot or under that I could tie to, why can't I tie my 12 footer there? You know, and that's, I just want to make it fair and equitable for everybody. If you're gonna restrict, you have to restrict.
What about moving this finger pier here? So you have these 4 areas and then leaving this whole thing for the bigger boats. Then for the smaller boats and they're all, so move this one basically here. So then you have 1, 2, 3,
Because I don't think you
4.
can, right? Just-
Yeah.
Those, yeah.
We think we can do slight
Not the
modifications.
same. Oh, there's nothing at.
Correct me,
yeah.
but the modification that Malcolm and Noah had a brainstorm about is taking those middle 2 finger piers and rotating the pier sign out, so they form like
L.
on an angle.
L's.
Yeah.
Yeah, they form like these grabbers,
Yeah.
and that we don't have to move the pilot,
Okay.
because moving the pilot is
So,
required.
anytime we could move this one to here.
For it to connect to.
Yeah.
It has to connect to something like
This
out
guy would
on
go
the
here and
outside.
down.
I know a guy who could do that.
Don't want boats parking this way. We want them parking
Yeah.
horizontal. How do you want to think? So it's really ignoring these are not spots per se. This is just like area,
Yeah.
showing area. Think of it as like 5 slots coming off, and then these are also coming off
Think of
this way. So we don't have anyone tying up here. So that's obviously a lot of space. So we actually have 28 feet in the middle there for boats to maneuver and to turn around. So it's a great, it's actually like a more appealing spot, I think, for.
The biggest thing is like, we need cleats and we needed them yesterday, and that's like something that like, somebody could go down to Conwell today. and get
They're
them.
already in the shop.
Okay, so that's like very easy.
Once we have, where you want us to put holes in the dock, we will.
Everywhere.
What,
Everywhere.
what happened to the overflow dinghy area that they used last year, which was on the, last year, up there
Where-
to the other side of the,
They just used that when they were washing the dinghy.
I think that's actually summer towns,
That was-
that's like a.
I think that's a flow.
Lead spots.
but it had a sign to it and it's then
It was temporary.
overflow
Yeah,
dinghy.
that was not, I think that's actually Chris Townsend's.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
I do. remember.
You,
are
thank you.
crazy.
I'm not,
Okay, you are not crazy.
it was there.
It was
Just
when
wondering if that was still gonna be available.
decided in July to power wash the dinghy dock.
So we,
It was
so
pretty insane.
on one of the worst days of the year, last year, we counted 62 boats on the dinghy dock, which.
And where's that?
And meanwhile,
Okay. And we have 68 spots in our proposal,
and we had 72 permits.
and we have 62 birds now.
And all the,
And
People that can get them.
I will say the people are the best at following rules, and when we put signs in, do so. They actually ask questions, come to the office and everything.
And I would love to see
There
those
it
people
is.
pay a few bucks.
That is 62 boats.
and is there a width required? No, we.
But
No, we haven't put a width, it's
it's
like,
actually a really good example. If you, I don't know if you, well, but this row here shows perfectly how small boats could operate.
Because I
regularly.
did that.
And
Moving boats around.
it's what we would replicate in most sections, but basically it's 5 to 6 boats can fit on either side with enough room to maneuver in the middle.
I mean, the thing, if there are cleats, you can fit a shit ton of boats, cause you can move around as you're going in, like.
And the problem is there's cleats in like the wrong space, so.
No, but that's.
and you get the short line, you get the long line.
But I mean, if the cleats, like, if you just put in a ton of cleats, that's gonna solve a lot of the problem.
Now, this area,
Yeah,
because there's tons of room between here and here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's a ton of space. It's just, the issue is that there's like 2 cleats in that whole area.
Yeah.
One thing that's nice about DJ is that as a harbor master designee, he can untie these boats and move them.
Yeah,
And then with Chris Maxwell and Milos's help, because they're on the pier maintenance staff, but also harbor master staff, we can drill into the pier and put cleats in.
David can
So-
jump up to and get it again.
Yeah. So, this is good feedback, and I want you guys to think of DJ whenever you go down the ding dock is in good order. Because it is due to his tireless efforts,
Thank
making the handouts and talking to
Thank you.
people and selling the permits. He's been doing.
about those stickers.
and did we decide what we're going to do with, are we gonna get stickers for transient people? Are we gonna get a?
So to change the regulations, we can't make up and offer new fees. We have to go for the select board and because it's currently on the pier corp.
Okay,
At
we're
the
having
next
a meeting next week for Pier, so we,
You are.
yeah.
Yep. So I
We were
would,
supposed to have it this week, but Jim's away, so we're gonna have it next week. So I will bring that up and try and get us on the next select board agenda. It's just seems like that, I think to me, that's a no-brainer. That's easy.
yep. We would love to offer a product between 4 free hours and $3.25 for the year.
Can
There's a
I,
Gap between those two things.
Yeah.
okay,
A monthly, a weekly, I mean,
well, also, I mean, the main thing is,
Daily?
yeah, daily, so
daily,
people are coming in off boats that are anchored, they wanna come in, they wanna have dinner, they wanna have.
$50.
It was suggested to us.
Well,
It might be.
They have it, let's take it from them.
Like a payment situation.
it's, Noah, what is it?
And then I can get the sticker, like,
Yeah,
like the,
same thing like you park in town.
Like
either
you-
on the app,
that's a great idea.
And it operates a similar way, so I don't
Yeah.
know, someone said maybe there's a way to work it.
Like I said, in QS, they had different colors for
Yeah,
different.
West does this.
well, I think if you're there
Yeah.
for a day, Noah, is it $20 for you guys?
No, I was
I
like,
think he's for the day though. I don't
But that's what I'm saying is I don't think it should be, I
think
think
it's 50.
chasing people down
There's
for
just-
however long, I think it
For
should
the
be a
trans-
flat day rate. I don't think that it should be like,
So no free tie-up.
what?
No free tie-up.
20
But
bucks is like a super reasonable amount of
First
time.
float is free for up to 15 minutes, then after that,
Yeah, but if you're,
You could-
the courtesy float,
Hey, what did they say?
that's free for 15 minutes, but most people aren't there for 15 minutes. I think if you're using if you're using the dinghy dock, it should be $20 a day. I don't think it should matter, like, if you're
most people are not coming, if they're there just for 15 minutes to grab ice somewhere, they can go to the courtesy dock for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you're there for longer than that, it's $20 for the day. Like, because most of those people are gonna be people who are anchoring, they're coming in for dinner, they're people who are gonna be, on a mooring, whatever
I
it
think
is.
$20.
If they're renting a mooring from Flyers, they're using that dinghy dock. So
Or they're getting
or
the
they're using the launch.
launch.
But I
So-
think $20 a day is reasonable.
Yeah.
I think for people who are here for a week, it can be, you get a
100.
better rate at the $100. If you're here for a month,
7 days would be 140, give it to them for 90.
yeah, or 100,
Yeah.
And the reason, I just want to reiterate this, the reason I am adamant that we should be charging these people is because we're charging the locals
Yes.
pay.
Yes.
The fishermen pay, everybody pays, but the people that
Yeah.
are here to hopefully spend all the money. But I think that's what they should be doing is, we charge people to park.
no,
We
absolutely.
get, so I think it's right in line with the way that I agree 100% that it should just be what's
I
expected.
mean,
I
$20
think
a
if
day,
you're-
that would be the cheapest.
I think if you're here for a month and the season is really only 3 months long, if you're here for a month, you can just get a pass for the season. I don't think that that's unreasonable that you just pay the whatever, if you're here for a month.
Mhm.
Like,
But I'm not opposed to.
25.
what? No, but I think you should be able to
Yeah,
get.
give them a month for like 50 to 20 bucks less than the year, and then they can make their own decision.
So I think we'll make a recommendation, if that's cool, that we're to the pier,
Yeah.
$20 a
Daily.
day, $100 for a week, and then if you're here for a month,
With the non-resident pass, and
325, I think,
25,
325.
275, give them a month for 275, I would say. If they only want to get 1 month.
250, yeah.
Yeah,
Any of it helps us, because it gets more people
Yeah.
permanent plus.
And then if you are using the dinghy dock, so what's the enforcement for that? If you're
So that's what we have to come up
looking
with.
at the cameras,
Well, we can't, yeah. when
I
is
think
that
DJ
for
functionally.
Cameras and safety.
I think they should be ticketed, like a car would be ticketed if they're not paying.
But you're talking about how do we identify who's paid?
If you don't have the
Correct. There
sticker.
should be a-
Well, so now we go,
so what
So now
about
we
kiosks is
are
gonna cost
noting-
money?
in 4 hours, which is
Yeah.
actually really hard to like fit
Yeah.
and constantly try.
Yeah.
So like, if they were there without a permit, that's easy. But if we're saying
So should there
you
be
have to
one,
pay, then they'd have to put it on, so we have to
Should-
figure it out.
should- transient boats only allowed to park in one, or tie up in one area, so it's easier to monitor?
Yeah, and
So say you have larger boats and transient boats, like,
Like essentially, the opposite is a permit holders only section of the dock.
or non-permit holders, give them a snap.
I think that goes, if we're gonna do that, I feel like we need a kiosk there. Get out of the boat, you're
Yeah,
standing.
but you're looking at $30,000 to get a kiosk and then you're.
$30,000.
And the way they do it in town is this. They're not gonna sign.
QR.
I'm talking
We
about that.
expect the same
Yeah.
parking and
And then put your, instead of your license plate, your MS numbers.
it's our, 27, like parking number.
Yeah.
Yeah, count the parking.
Zone,
Yeah, I guess it could. be
02,
Yeah, so they keep the revenue.
657.
Something like that.
Well, it could be a QR code that goes directly, I'm gonna leave it with the techie people, but to the harbor map, to the mooring
Yes.
thing, whatever.
Straight to-
So QR code.
It currently goes to the Pier Enterprise Fund.
Okay, so maybe that's our fancy little fund from.
Dinghy dock from revenue.
It's gotta be a digital way to do it. Expensive.
there is, yeah.
But I think putting an actual kiosk down there does not make sense with wave action, with Rust, with all of that, with the cost of having it, if it doesn't work. I think having a QR code is a good.
But I think they should be ticketed, like a car would be ticketed.
Well, I think that we need like, how do you
Yeah.
do it to be able to ticket it? Cause like if we just ticket everyone who doesn't have one, that would be problematic. And like right now, we're only set up 2 transactions Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. So like then we're limited on weekends, about daily or week transactions.
And then it's like if somebody misses it, if somebody's not there, if
Will you guys humor us?
They used to have a
Would you-
bike
I think
lock
look
where you
into-
walk the
explore.
dinghy to the.
We could ask parking.
is that Noah?
Yeah, they used to have a bike lock, like a long cable. You could lock it to the thing and tell them to go see the harbor master's office, if they're in violation, to go pay for their dinghy dock. You know what I mean?
That's what's on the Thursday float and can like move to the attenuator. I think it's like the idea of the penalty box. It's just then having that away from the areas
Yeah.
really short term.
We've been putting up.
So we have a couple options. Is that something you'd be willing to undertake and look at and just get back to us with like what it would entail? Can we go through parking? Do we have to have our own QR code? And what is the cost of a kiosk? Because I see them in some of the weirdest places. And some of the, you pull up on the dock and it's right there. And I can't imagine when it puts out a sticker, they're that expensive.
Yeah.
I'd be
We have to
curious
look.
if you don't mind humoring me on that, because then it's, like you said, you can color code them or you can just have a timestamp, 4 hours, 1 day. And it goes on your motor, on your, where, you know. And then we can get into enforcement of the penalties and charging people.
Want to give 2 quick updates. One, we had a resignation in the department, and so we have an opening for assistant or deputy harbor master. Mike Coleman resigned due to not liking enforcing rules on people who don't like to be enforced rules on. So the Provincetown locals are spicy. But that's also fair. It's, you know, not as lasting a job as he thought it might be. And then Fisherman's Memorial, you wanted an agenda item you mentioned last meeting.
I should have asked Nick while I was here. I was curious if there was any way for the harbor committee, if they'd be interested in supporting the Fisherman's Memorial.
How much are they short? Because I know they short.
$307,000.
I knew they.
Squaws? What?
Huh?
Oh.
Well, we were expecting to get a little bit more from CPC. There was a very interesting meeting, to say the least. But I wasn't sure if the harbor committee would be interested in utilization of some of the funds we could possibly expend to support
Is
that.
that the cost of the sculpture?
The whole thing, start to finish, is about $325,000, which
You're
is.
short all of it.
Yeah, we just really get into it. We thought CPC was gonna come through with a bit more. The contract to sign it cost $65,000, and then we can pay it in installments from there. We approached some larger donors at this point, but unfortunately, everyone's hesitant in this climate.
How much of that is for the artist? Almost all.
None. We are no longer with Romolo. In the old fee, we have gone to we have worked with Roden Designs, they're northern, I think Nebraska. They're a memorial company. It's not an artist rendition. It's going to be a solid block of granite with a empty dory atop it with all the names on it. Very simple.
And that's costing 300,000?
Yeah.
What about just asking Frankie Rice to pull up a slab of granite and do that? I mean, it sounds like it could be.
We put it out for RFP. We had several companies respond, 9 designs ranging in price from like $325 to close to $700,000. So we chose, as a board, we voted to go with the simple, what we thought the Portuguese people would like, and that was less of an artist rendering and more of a memorial design. That's what this company does. They focus on a lot of firemen, police memorials. So anyway, it was something I wanted to bring up. In full disclosure, I am in charge of fundraising on the board. I'm working closely with Lisa to get that done. The town has granted us the site. Did get some CPC funding. Continue to work with.
How much CPC fund?
Just $10,000. The interesting meeting, they gave 10,000 to 3 groups and 90 to purchase a plot of land on Atkins Mayo. We were hoping to get a larger chunk of that money. So we're back to private funding. We're out banging on doors, talking with people.
I feel like that there will be a lot of interest from people, especially around fundraising around the blessing of the fleet. Maybe putting up a booth, maybe talking to some artists who have done paintings already for the blessing of the fleet of boats that have been lost at sea and auctioning off some of those. I think it would be hard for us to justify like a substantial amount of money for that. I'm totally in support of it, but I think that for us to, you know, when we only have 177,000 to like
that's half of what you need, and that would leave us with no money left.
I'm not asking for half.
No, I know.
Cemetery stepped in with
Um,
500.
Maybe we could do a matching, maybe 10,000, that's something that the board would have to, but that's not even like a drop in the ocean compared to what you need.
But enough drops make a substantial.
But I definitely think that talking to some of the artists who have done paintings, that's 75 different artists over the years who have done paintings for the t-shirts, asking them to do, a painting and do kind of like an art auction, or working with Pam or the Fine Arts Work Center, or Jim Bacher to do like an auction for you. I think that there's a lot of people like, there were a lot of families who were really touched with like somebody bought when Derek McCara did, the Liberty that, Kenny McCara sang on, somebody bought that painting for the family. The same thing with the Patricia Marie, the King family bought that, they wanted to keep it in the family. I think that there's people who will spend money on paintings that will kind of honor their, so I think that that's a pretty good resource. I think, we will have to talk about us donating money, also would have to go to the Board of Select, which I think would be fine. But I think we have to wait and talk to Jim about what he's envisioning on all these projects and what those are gonna be. I would definitely be happy to put it on the agenda to talk about, doing a gift, but again, that's a small amount compared.
Small amounts add up. I appreciate that. We could take it offline another time. I'd love to chat more about this artist thing.
Thank you.
We have paired with several artists. We do have a booth at the at the Blessing of the Fleet. We also have a sign going up. Our website will be launching this week, and we have QR codes for donation sites. We've also printed multiple postcards, etc., all that we paired with a couple of artists.
Contracted with that company.
We are in the process.
So before you do that, I would talk to Frankie Rice. He works like in granite and stone. He's local. He just did the whole thing at the A House. I don't know. He's not somebody who would ever have known about an RFP or what an RFP is, but I'm sure that he could do it for a lot less than 300.
I'd love to chat with him.
And I mean, he's local, could do it in his backyard, So.
Awesome.
That was here's the agenda again that we had in front of us, and so happy for any future.
I do have one I have to bring up. Babbling over here. I just wanted to, because it affects the harbor, so June 9th, there will be a public hearing. My wife and our business is going to bring sea urchins back to Provincetown in a farmed industry. It'll be the first special permit in the state, so I just wanted to update folks that we will be moving forward with this project. Public hearing on the 9th at 7 p.m. They're nothing new, but farming them. Yeah, so we're starting with, we want to stay low carbon footprint.
Yeah.
They actually take care of our biofouling, so we're hoping that they will continue to eat the biofouling that we have on our outer farm where the nursery is. We've been finding them there. That's kind of what started the whole conversation. Our naturalist, Tor Jensen, would verify that we've been finding our green sea urchins.
Yeah.
So there is the biofouling. There's the market, which is a November to April market, which is the opposite of oystering, which is nice. And also they were once prevalent and overfished in the 90s. And as they make a resurgence, we want to support that and see, obviously we're going to contain ours, but we are bringing them back and hoping to create a new market. And then also in working with one of the purchasers that we talked to, they don't have a boutique market right now, which would be small hand harvested, small batches, which is what we would be hoping to bring to the Cape, opening up. And just like Michaela said, they're very high end. They're kind of sought after in other markets, bringing them here and being able to charge a little bit more.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to let you guys know there is a meeting. If anyone wants to chime in or has questions, wants to hear the breakdown, they'll be.
So I can only do it as a public citizen unless other harbor committee members feel like it's a good thing. I would be happy to write a letter or speak on behalf of the harbor committee if we want to do that. I think it fits.
It does actually fit into our harbor.
Especially like bolstering
Yes,
the.
economic,
blue economy.
yes, it's in there,
So
yes.
if everyone
Yeah.
is in agreement, I'll make a motion that
That
as
would-
a harbor committee, we support it, and
Yeah.
I'll either speak on behalf or write a letter on behalf.
Yeah.
If everyone's okay with that. So
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that the harbor committee writes or speaks to support the application by Mike and Calliope to of their application to bring sea urchin farming to Provincetown. Is there a second?
I said,
Or McCluskey second, all in favor, Marty,
Yes.
Maria,
yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Michaela, yes. Great.
With the time change, I do apologize for the short notice because the hearing is on the 9th, but
That's fine. I'll either come in person or I'll write a letter.
thank you. Yeah, it's good. I thought it was very relevant to the harbor. So.
We can do and more than for it, more that we can actually that brings up, obviously, we're not the shellfish committee, but somebody did reach out to me with a question, and they're not a shellfish farmer, but they will, so the grants in Wellfleet are very hard to come by, and there's a lot of people who are interested in getting involved in shellfishing and do not have that ability to do so in Wellfleet because of how sort of hard the grants are to come by, and they were wondering, and you probably will know the answer to this, is there a residency requirement to have a grant in Provincetown? And if there is, but we have all of these acres that are underutilized or not used at all, would there be a possibility to modify that a non-resident, so if somebody lived, so say you lived in Truro or Wellfleet or Eastham, and you wanted to run a grant in Provincetown, is there an opportunity to do that? If there's not, would we be willing to revisit it if we have all of this? I mean, we have tons of underutilized area, right? And people who are wanting to give up their grants now.
Yeah, there's like 40 acres out there. I don't know how many acres are occupied, but there's like 8 solid growers right now. There is a residency requirement. And I don't know, to be honest, historically, if they've ever discussed opening that up at all. I mean, that would be a question to bring up at a committee meeting.
Would you find as a farmer out there, having more people would be better overall, or would you find it more congested, or?
There's two schools of thought, and I'm of a rising tide lifts all boats. And the branding of the Provincetown oyster, it's kind of sad that people approach us daily during the summer. Are you growing Wellfleet oysters?
Yeah.
But it's a really hard topic sometimes because then I don't want to be snarky, but I want to educate. And so, yeah, I feel like the more farmers out there, the better our brand is. Why does everyone recognize Wellfleet? PR. Why does everyone want to eat Provincetown oysters? It's because they taste better. That's my opinion. But so I think we could open it up and find ways to put more people out there, and it wouldn't hurt the industry. It might actually, in my opinion, make it better. The more you drive requests for Provincetown oysters, we're a smaller farm. We can only supply one restaurant right now. And as we develop it, maybe more, but right now there's just not enough growing power out there to really request that.
Well, I think that there's a lot of younger farmers who can't afford to live in Provincetown, but could afford to farm in Provincetown, and that we have you guys are probably some of the younger farmers.
Not anymore, thank God.
Okay, but you
Just a
and me,
couple
it's
younger.
definitely, I feel like there's definitely like an aging population of I know at least 2 people have said to me that they're probably gonna give up their grants in the next couple of years, so. If we can find, if they would have a mechanism in which to sell their business, if they, and I think that bringing in people in the same way that we have to.
Young people
Yeah.
might want to be.
In the same way, a lot of our business
So
owners
one of the
can't afford to
things
live in
we've
Provincetown.
done this year, we've actually, since we're talking about it, we brought in interns this year from the College of William and Mary. We put out an application, Bill Walton, who used to be here, helped us put it through the aquaculture network down there, and we had pretty good response, more than I expected. We are bidding out a few weeks. We've had one that was here for 2 weeks, phenomenal young man, super into wanting to learn, wanted to know more about it. So the potential's there. There are, as you said, people that want to do it and that just can't afford to live here. We are much older. The Cape across the board is older. I think finding ways, that would be an interesting conversation to bring up with the Shellfish Committee and asking them, because maybe we could find ways to work with them. That people that
started.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
that want to come here, want to work with a resident.
People who want to sell their businesses and, have invested a lot of time and energy and resources into starting a business, but then maybe they're aging out of, and then there's somebody younger who could come in, the infrastructure is there, I think.
The vocational, high schools
Yeah.
are interested in doing a vocational type thing.
So, I mean, that's just food for thought, and it's not necessarily our purview, but it is in theory with the harbor regulations.
Well, I mean, it's a focus of the harbor plan,
Yeah.
is aquaculture and
promoting,
I just don't want to overstep with the Shellfish Committee.
it's a conversation, maybe, it'd be worth bringing it if someone wanted to go to the meeting as a representative of the committee and say, are you interested in this? Have you thought about, been discussions in the past about limiting the number of acres out there? Because the process is so lengthy, it takes a year to 2, sometimes 3, depending on COVID, to get stuff permitted.
Yeah.
So it is a long process, so transferring, like you talked about, is such an easier way to do it.
Yeah.
If there's institutional knowledge there that you can pass along, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, or, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I feel like we need to do more to start supporting. And I don't think our community is exclusive to people who can afford to live in Provincetown. I think there's a lot of business owners who, in order for them to have a business, they have to live in Truro, in order for them, so our community far expands out. There's a lot of people who've grown up in town who can't afford to live in town. And that will, only continue until we have vacancy taxes, until we have whatever, that is only going to continue to move.
there's a lot of younger people that aren't
Yeah.
living here that are only not living here because they can't.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Love to start a business and,
But.
more than you think.
Can I ask an unrelated question? What happened with the parking? When all those people
Select board, no go, absolutely not, won't even entertain it.
won't entertain,
Like,
no,
no parking, don't want to comply, even though everybody else has to comply.
so there's still non-commercial vehicles that are allowed
Yeah.
to traverse
So,
and all that.
the absolute, it doesn't matter, everybody else has to comply, the town doesn't have to comply. We'll just continue, doing whatever we want.
Well, the town has put on hold their transportation hub for almost 30 years, as long as the chapter 91 license thing has been going on. A plan, and right in that harbor, that place, Grove Square.
So Jim did say that he's reached out to the
Yeah.
EP and the Army Corps of Engineering, and I don't know enough about it because I wasn't present at that meeting. But it was the impression that I got from speaking with him that there's sort of a lot of bad blood because they had come down and things that the town were saying that they weren't doing.
For 30 years.
They witnessed in action as they came, and so he's trying to repair that relationship, and that there is potentially an opportunity for asking for modifications, and and it seems like we are not. There was a lot of concern that we were missing out on funding cycles, that maybe we are getting those funding cycles, so I think that there's a lot of playing telephone, and some people have some idea and some people have another, but at this juncture, the select board and the DPW are not interested in any way in dealing with any traffic mitigation on the pier.
Even the plan that was presented.
They do not want to deal with any complaints for people who love to drive down the pier or who love to park illegally when the ferry comes in.
Have you been noticing, the other day I came down, someone asked me what I was doing and turned the car behind me around, community service officer. Are they semi-enforcing that? Like, is that?
The CSOs have their shift during ferry times, to allow only ferry traffic and to get that folks at the pier and on the pier itself. So the CSOs are.
There is
Some level of enforcement then.
We're not prohibiting pickups yet, we're just limiting the amount of traffic as best we are.
Letting fishermen get the trains and do their work around the pickups. And so we're moving the pickups around to give space to the fishermen.
Are the fishermen happy with that?
I cannot speak.
Oh.
I'll find out.
I mean, that was a big, that was before your
Yeah.
time. I think that was a very well
There's a lot.
attended
Yes.
meeting.
A lot of complaints about access, and we have been able to get everyone access that I've been around, when the issues came up.
Yeah.
So no one's been like blocked out, I think for less traffic on the pier, but.
So
It is probably one of them.
is it are you finding it beneficial to you and your staff?
Oh, yes, Tennessee is, oh, absolutely, yeah.
Perfect.
And they're well-trained, and they are making educations, and they have the power, they're on radio with other police officers at all times, and so it's very well-connected traffic enforcement.
I think that sometimes just the yellow vest is all you need sometimes to.
They're the same people yelling at the
And also, all of those, there's no reason we can't give tickets to people who are, and that's another revenue stream. I do want to be cognizant of the fact that this is a 2.5 hour meeting, and so I don't want to, I know town staff have other things to do, and thank you guys for, I think you've been very good and productive. Does anyone have anything else that they want to unburden themselves with? Right. So we will be getting more cleats on the dinghy dock. Great. Perfect. All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Yeah.
Yes.
All in favor, everyone says yes.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.